The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live on this Monday, November 30th, 2020. Yes, we have successfully crested the Thanksgiving holidays and we've moved right into everything else here. So I've done some jazzing up of our background here to, I don't know. Good morning, MDA Mental Disorder Awareness. We're so thrilled to have you here. And Christina, good morning to you too. I was just having a laugh. You know how sometimes you see yourself and you go, oh, not how I thought I looked. I saw myself on the screen and I was like, I look like Roger Ebert. It's a little Roger Ebert with earrings. Do you remember who he was? He used to review movies. It's a little scary. I have the Roger Ebert haircut. So I'm kind of laughing at myself this morning. I hope everybody had a really good Thanksgiving. There's so much to talk about because we didn't get as much time last week as we normally do, but I hope you guys enjoyed the marathon and all the toy reviews because we certainly had some fun doing those over the years. We've got a lot of toys coming up this year. Hi, Zachariah. So thrilled to have you. And I don't know whether that's Zachariah or Patricia, but hello all the same. And I want to let you guys know our toy guide, our 2020 toy guide is live. It is on our website, autism-live.com. Go to the very top where it's the little icon says toy guide, click on it, and you can see all of the toy recommendations for 2020. And let me tell you something, there are many categories, right? So there's a baby and toddler category, then there is the preschool category, then the school age category, then the teen and tween category, then the adult category, and then there is a category of gifts that are just for caregivers, because sometimes caregivers, we need gifts too, right? And I gotta say, one of my faves, I've been having so much fun with, this is from Ann Williams Group, and this is one of our, it's the arts and craft gift in the caregiver. But listen, this is so awesome. I wish that I could put this in every category because I could see having a good time doing this. So what it is, they each have a different theme, and I want to show you, and it comes with 10 different pictures that it gives you, and it gives you a blank picture. Let me show you one I haven't done yet because I've been having some. Okay, so it gives me a blank picture, and then it gives me all of these stickers that I can stick on them anywhere I want to, and I can go as crazy as I want to. And here's what I love about it is that if I've only got 5 minutes, I can sit down and I can craft for 5 minutes, and I put all these little roses all around, and then I can move them. I've had so much fun with this over the Thanksgiving break. And it's called Sticker and Chill. It's from the Ann Williams Group. They're called, their sub-company is called Craftastic. You can get it on our toy guide. They're really great price point, great gift to ship. And I just super, super duper loved it. Loved it, played with it over the holiday weekend. And it was Sticker and Chill time. So thrilled that you guys are all here with us this morning. So, we're going to be talking about toys and talking about different things, but I love it. Go ahead and write in your questions, but we've got a great guest this morning. Bonnie Yates, I believe, is joining us in a little while. So let's get right to it, shall we? Because I hate making her wait. I want to remind you that we have lots of experts on the show. I'm not one of them. I'm a parent. I am a grateful parent of an individual who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5 and is doing wonderfully, about to be 17.5 this week. So, but don't confuse me for an expert, confuse me for someone who cares deeply about you and your path, wherever you are in this big, beautiful community. And here at Autism Live, we talk about the larger autism community, which starts with individuals who are on the spectrum. I always make this gesture because it's like they're the beating core, the heart of that group. But I sort of picture it as like this dome, right? So at the heart of it are individuals who are on the autism spectrum. But then I also picture this dome around them that's everyone who loves them. And this show is for everyone within that circle, because we know that it's not one size fits all. We want to help you to get to the progress that you need. And we're fighting really hard for the dignity and respect and opportunity that all individuals on the autism spectrum deserve to get. So thrilled that you guys are here with us. We always like to start on Mondays when we have time with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani are those experts talking about? What does this have to do with us? Why should we care? How can this save us 5 minutes and $5? So today's term is an oldie but a goodie, OT. It's not OT, and it's greatly misunderstood. So especially in regards to autism, let's take a look at our actual definition. It is an occupational therapist. Now, good morning, Amanda. I don't know about you, but when my 2.5-year-old was diagnosed with autism and I was saying, what should we be doing? And they said, well, you're going to want to get speech and OT. And I said, what's OT? Occupational therapy. And I said, he's 2.5. He doesn't have a job yet, but I want to make sure that he can have a job later on, right? Why does he need to go to an occupational therapist? And they said, no. It's to get him ready for things that he needs to do to be job ready. And that was sort of the simple explanation, but let's take a look at our working definition here, and then we'll hone in a little bit about what an OT does and why they're important for individuals on the spectrum, no matter what their age is. So an OT is a health professional whose goal is to help people achieve independence. Oh, that makes a certain amount of sense, right? Meaning and satisfaction in all aspects of their lives. Well, shut the front door. That's kind of cool, right? So for a 2.5-year-old on the autism spectrum, we might be working on, finger grasp and hand grasp and, the palmar grasp, being able to grab a hold of things so that he can hold a water bottle someday. We certainly would be working on pincer grasp so that he could pick things up to feed himself, right? But we also want that pincer grasp so that he can unzip his pants when we get to that point so that he has independence. But we also want to be working on a tripod grasp so that he will be able to sign his name and write all the things that he wants to write in his life and eventually be able to type, right? But there's other stuff. It's not just the finger fine motor skills, although OTs are great for that, right? But a lot of times OTs are great with individuals on the autism spectrum because they deal with sensory processing. So they can help a person to be able to regulate, when there's lots of noise and other things that are happening. An OT can be very helpful with that. And also, all the vestibular things, being able to walk across the balance beam, having enough motor skill to be able to do the things that they want to do. I'm just seeing that somebody wrote in and said, my son is still trying to regulate after his wild week of an MRI, dentist, Thanksgiving, and going to the store. We will be so glad when we start 4 hours a week with telehealth. Woo! And she said, still trying to celebrate the little things. Here's what I love and hate about the holidays. And sorry, Traven, I am going to come back to that, but because this is going to be part of our OT discussion. What I love about the holidays is that it's something different. It disrupts the pattern and we get to do something different and it staves off boredom, right? But here's the bad part of it. If you're a sensory person and you have inflexibilities, it throws everything out the door. And listen, what I just said, if you have sensory things and you have some inflexibility issues, guess who that is? All of us. That is not just people who are on the autism spectrum. That is all of us. Everybody's having a hard time because it's the Monday after Thanksgiving. And I've heard 8 people this morning already go, man, having a hard time getting it together here, right? Everything, we got ourselves in a little different groove, and now we need to get ourselves back in this groove. And it's hard for everyone. So, the one person who said that their little is having a little bit of trouble readjusting after this really wild week where a lot of the rules changed for the week, right? It's kind of normal. An OT can help us to work on those things too, because they help us with sensory regulation, being able to help ourselves to coping. A really wonderful thing. Good morning, Nasser. OT, a really important component of working with individuals on the autism spectrum. And a good OT can be doing all kinds of great things with an individual. I really love, and we haven't heard her on the show in a while, but Kara Kaczynski, she goes by the Pocket OT. And if you go to, I think it's pocketot.com, she's got a lot of great blog and a lot of great information there and some books. And one of her books is featured as one of our top gifts. I think it's in the caregiver category. I call it a bathroom book because you can put it in your bathroom and you can just open up when you're in the bathroom for a second. You got a minute there. You open it up, pick any page, and you read, and it'll give you one good tidbit. And of course, everybody says, oh, that's not good hand, and sanitary. It is, because if you sit down on the toilet and while you're doing the thing you're reading, then you close it and put it away before you're doing anything else, you're okay because your hands were clean when you sat down. I'm sorry, TMI, but bathroom book. It's a really good way. And Kara Kaczynski, great bathroom books. Great OT, quite wonderful. So get yourself some OT. I also love that most school districts will give you OT like, it's like Halloween candy. Like they've got a whole bunch of it and they'll give it out to pretty much anybody who asks for it, right? I don't think I've ever heard somebody having to fight a school district to get some OT. Whether your OT is super fabulous, awesome, or somebody who's pretty by the book, going to work on hand skills, but even then, can be a really good thing. The one thing that I will say, and I want everybody to hear me when I say this, because I'm a big fan of OT, and I'm especially a big fan of good OT. OT does not take the place of ABA. It's something that works great in conjunction with it. So, if I said to you, okay, we're going to make a Thanksgiving dinner and I've got this great way to make mashed potatoes, right? Well, mashed potatoes doesn't make a whole Thanksgiving dinner. If you really want to do the traditional Thanksgiving dinner, you got to have the turkey too, right? Turkey and some mashed potatoes and maybe some stuffing and some cranberry sauce, right? So OT, great mashed potatoes. Don't think it's the turkey. It's not. It's part of the whole. A lot of times I hear people go, oh, well, my son has speech and OT. That's what they offered us. That's what we're going to do. My daughter doesn't, we've got speech and OT. My daughter doesn't need anything else. No. But I agree. Amanda is saying OT is such an important part of the overall team. I absolutely agree. But a lot of times people go, okay, well, we've got OT. That's all we need. And, OT is going to be great for that sensory component. But if we want to teach somebody to get them caught up on the things that they didn't learn, if it's not physical, OT is not going to help with that. So part of the whole, an important part of the whole, but not the whole picture. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you. And our question today, I have no idea what it is. And Traven's making us wait for it. There we go. What sensory issues are you dealing with? Okay. Isn't this a great question? I love this question because we all have sensory issues. Like it's very personal, right? Some of you are people who, if somebody puts nails down a chalkboard, you'll lose your mind. I can hear nails on a chalkboard, and that doesn't bother me at all. But set somebody behind me, have me listen to something in front of me, and have the person behind me talking, and I will lose my cookies. It creates anxiety in me, and I can't deal. So, what sensory issues are you dealing with, and how do you cope with them? And how frustrating is it for you when you don't have an out? And the reason why I'm asking you that is because almost all of our kids, no, I'm going to say all of our kids, just like all of us, have sensory issues. And how sensitive do we want to be about that? How willing, how open do we want to be to seeing what their sensitivities are and to help them to work on coping skills? Um, Somebody says cotton coming out of a medicine bottle. Is that a good or a bad? Is that something you really love, or is that something that's really like nails on a chalkboard? I didn't know for the longest time that my son, egg cartons that are the styrofoam, and we didn't get a lot of eggs. He was allergic to eggs. But there's the kind that are paper, and there's the kind that are plastic, and then there are ones that is like a little bit styrofoamy. If you just like turn them a little bit styrofoamy, now that he's older and he can go, I would prefer that you not make that noise around me, right? Amanda, so the cotton coming out of the medicine bottle, I don't know that I've ever even really heard. Is it the sound, or is it the texture of it? I'm fascinated now. Aren't people's sensory things just fascinating? It's like, what drives you total bonkers? Narissa says sound for her grandson. Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own things, right? So if you have your thing, we have to assume that your child or your teen or your adult has a thing too. So Amanda says it's the feeling and the sound. That's absolutely fascinating. Well, I will make sure never to do that on the show or in your presence, because that's like, isn't it great when you can find out from somebody, oh, that's the thing that makes me full on bonkers? I think I was married for, I don't know, 5 years before I said to my husband, we had a couch in the living room where you could stand behind somebody while they were watching television. And sometimes my husband would stand on the phone and I'd be trying to watch something. And I just like go, I can't concentrate. This is happening in front of me. You're happening behind me. And I would pause it and he would go, honey, go ahead and watch it. And I go, I can't. It cannot happening. Oh, Traven says nail filing drives him bonkers. Well, Traven, I probably have done that in the studio with you listening. You speak up. But, isn't it great that we have the ability to say and to hear what's driving somebody bonkers? Sometimes individuals on the autism spectrum don't have an easy path to communicate with us and say, this is what's bothering me. And we all need to be sensitive about that, to hear in the many different ways that they can tell us, and to kind of be detectives. My son's very sensitive to sound. His school abused the use of those noise canceling headphones. And we didn't know for so long. Yeah. I mean, I think what's great about a really good OT is that, it's not loving and kind to just say to somebody, oh, well, you know what? That's part of your disability. And so you're left out. Like, that's not the ticket. And a good OT will help to work on desensitization. And there's 2 different types of desensitization. There's systematic desensitization, and then there's flooding. And there are times and places and with professionals where flooding is a potential, but a lot of times it's a bad idea, especially for our kids, right? So, but systematic desensitization, going very slow to get somebody accustomed to a sound or an issue or whatever, has been found to be very effective even with our kids. So something to keep in mind. But the flip of that is just slapping some earphones on somebody and saying, oh, they can't cope with sound, so we'll just cut them out of everything. Not good OT, right? Not the ticket. That's not loving. That's not inclusive. And our folks deserve to be included. And you know what? The world needs it. The world needs for them to be included, because they bring something special and unique. And when we put them over to the side, we're cheated out of that experience. So I'm sorry. Sometimes as parents, we find out after the fact, oh, somebody wasn't doing something and it was not good for our child. And I know what that feels like. You just want to run around, light your hair on fire and scream and yell and stomp on things. But good for you for recognizing it when you did. Okay, moving on. We always have a topic of the week. Are you ready for our topic this week? Because we're moving into the December thing. So new topic, every waking hour. Now, we talk a lot on the show about ABA, good quality ABA, and how vital and important it is. And every year I sort of pick a new aspect of things that I really want to promote and hit hard. And I remember a couple of years ago, when we started the show, I was like ABA, ABA, ABA. And then I was about inclusion, inclusion, inclusion. And then I realized that a lot of people were not getting good ABA and they weren't getting good inclusion. And that's almost worse than nothing in both cases, right? So I was all about good ABA and good inclusion. And now I'm about this every waking hour. So because it's the whole picture, right? We need to be doing good quality ABA, and you need to have a good quality OT, and you got to have good quality speech, right? And the diet's got to be good. And there's other things that you can do as well, depending on the individual. But every waking hour is about making every moment count and making it a reinforcing, so it's pleasant, an educational, immersive experience. So I've never had the pleasure of living abroad, but I have friends who, I studied Spanish in high school and was considered fluent. In fact, I have a high school diploma with a Regents degree in Spanish, where the whole test is oral and you have to do it in Spanish, and I could speak Spanish fluently. With an asterisk, right? Because I'd never lived in a Spanish-speaking community. And I know some of my friends who then went and spent a year in Spain or a year in Mexico, one friend went to Bolivia. They immersed themselves in the language and came back, and their language, poof, right? Because every waking moment of their day was this immersive relationship with the Spanish language. I, on the other hand, didn't. And what happened, there's like 10 words because I didn't keep up on it and I wasn't fully immersed in mine. And when we talk about autism and teaching skills to an individual and helping them, Alicia says we can practice. I want to get my Spanish back. But we don't talk about this much on the show, but I was born in Puerto Rico, and I very much want to go to Puerto Rico, and I want to be able to understand and say more than just queso. You know what I'm saying? So, but in any case, immersive, we know that that's the best way to teach language is immersive. And part of what we're trying to teach to individuals on the autism spectrum is language, right? In all the different forms that there are, but even with the other things, when we're teaching social skills and sensory processing things, if we make it a positive educational environment and make it every waking hour, we have the best chance of helping that individual the most with whatever their needs are, whatever their particular issues are. So yes, si se puede, exactly. So I love, Christina says, we are rocking every waking hour. You get it done, right? This is really the ticket. And I really am excited about 2021 because we like anything other than 2020, right? But we're really going to be talking about this in 2021. That's really where my head is at, every waking hour. And how do we do that? How do we put that in your hip pocket? How do we make that possible for you? Whether you are the person on the spectrum or you are the teacher or you are the parent, we want for this to be every waking hour. We are working on brushing up our ASL. My son loves it and he asks for it verbally. That is awesome. See, that shows passion. If he's asking for something, that's highly preferred if he's going to the trouble to ask for it. So I think you're absolutely right. Brush up. That's a whole other language and one that is so very useful. So I absolutely love that. Okay, so I was trying so hard not to be late for Bonnie, but so that's our topic for today. We got Bonnie with us. Is she with us? Or is she she's not here yet. Okay, Hopefully she's going to be joining us. So we have time to chat. Anyway, so every waking, tell me when she is here though, Traven, okay? So he likes the sign ABC. See, and I don't know what the sign for ABC is. So are you saying he likes to sign the whole alphabet? Because if he likes to sign the whole alphabet, that's really wonderful. There's a song that where you sign the alphabet and then there's a word that goes with each letter. So that'd be a great thing to do with him next. I'm doing this because I can remember when my son was in early intervention and the only sign that I knew, I think this is cookie. C is for cookie. Oh, Bonnie is here. Okay. So, so thrilled that we have Bonnie Yates here. There is a song though. I'll see if I can find it, Christina. If you Google it, signing the alphabet, I bet it'll come up. So Bonnie Yates is here, and she is a special education attorney with the Tollner Law Offices, and we're so thrilled that she is joining us. Good morning, Bonnie.
Good morning. How are you, Shannon?
How are you?
I'm good. I enjoyed the break.
Yes, didn't we all?
Yeah, we did.
Well, I'm glad that you got a break. Tell us a little bit about Tollner Law Offices and give us your disclaimer for today.
Tollner Law Offices is an 8-attorney firm. We're based in San Jose, California. We have an attorney that practices in Nevada. We have another one that practices in Arizona. If you are in any of those places and you want a free consultation, we can offer that outside of what we do on this show. On this show, what we try to do is we try to inform you about your rights under state and federal law in a general way, but it wouldn't be a substitute for having a specific conversation with an attorney. If you are outside of the states I mentioned, go to COPA, COPAA.net. And you could use their attorney directory as a good place to start.
Wonderful. So now, last week we didn't get to do a live show with you because we had catastrophic issues, technical issues, and we apologize to you and to everybody else. But I know you had a topic scheduled to talk about then. Is that what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, and hopefully you got what I sent you, which was kind of a cheat sheet for Section 504 versus the IDEA.
Yes.
That?
Yes, I do have that. Let me see if I can bring that up. And Traven also got that. So if I let me see if I've got it. But this is a really important topic, Bonnie, because there's a lot of confusion about what the difference is between a 504 and an IEP, and when do you need which one, and what does each do? So where do you want to jump in on this?
Well, let's jump in with the chart first, and then we'll talk more specifically about more nuanced aspects of the law. So here's my observation. Because there's no attorney fee provision under the Lanterman Act in California, which is the regional center, attorneys end up knowing less about the regional center because they don't tend to be able to litigate there because it's not cost effective. And 504 isn't exactly the same because it does have a money damages provision and you can sue under 504 and get attorney's fees, but that's only at a later stage of the game. And so if you all don't feel like you're very strong on 504, I don't feel like I'm very strong on 504. And so I wanted to at least begin talking about it. It's not a statute that I've used a lot, but I do know attorneys that sue for under 504 for discrimination, and they're successful, and those lawsuits can result in large money judgments. But okay. If you have a student with autism, it's hard for me to believe that you'd end up with a 504 plan, properly end up with a 504 plan. I've had students that have been put on a 504 plan with a diagnosis of autism, but I think that it's so likely that the autism has an educational impact that you would qualify for an IEP. 504 is a different kind of statute. 504 is basically like a non-discrimination statute that says you can't treat a handicapped person, and that's the term that's used, a handicapped person, differently than you would treat a non-handicapped person. So if somebody had a brace on their leg or something, a functional brace, you couldn't tell that person you can't play football with the rest of the kids. It's really a non-discrimination statute. And so where we encounter 504 in the schools is you put somebody on a 504 plan, I think generally because there aren't the same kind of accountability requirements at that level as with the IDEA. So we don't have good experiences when our clients are on 504 plans in public school. We could have a good experience if they were properly implemented. The reason they're not is that there's not the same, requirement for an annual IEP, requirement that that you can record your meetings, requirement that you write annual measurable goals and objectives. And so we tend to have 504 plans that are very weak because there's not a lot of ability at the school level for enforcing them. But you actually can have services under 504, not just accommodations to include you in the classroom. So I don't know that 504 is going to soon become really effective for any parents because of the problems at the school level where the 504 plan isn't taken seriously. But it's still important to understand how it works. So a 504 plan, as you see in the chart, the basic description is it's a blueprint for how the school will provide support and remove barriers for a student with a disability. So if you had a wheelchair and you wanted to go into a general ed class and there was only a step going up to the class, the architectural barrier that you would have to remove would in that case be you'd have to put a ramp in for the student so that they could access the classroom. In terms of what it does, what the 504 plan does, okay, the IEP is providing individualized special education and related services to meet a child's unique needs at no cost to the family. Whereas the 504 plan is supposed to provide services and changes to the learning environment to enable students to learn alongside their peers. The IEP is a whole separate law. They're both federal in nature, but the 504, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act is intended to stop discrimination against people with disabilities. Well, what are some forms of discrimination you could get under 504? Well, what if you had something that said you can't play on the school baseball team if you have a disability? That wouldn't require an IEP, but it would be discriminatory. So that would be a violation of 504. In terms of who's eligible, to get an IEP, there are two requirements. You have to have, first of all, a qualifying disability under the IDEA, and I think you remember that there are 13. And the disability has to affect the child's educational performance and or the ability to learn and benefit from the general education curriculum. And the child must need specialized instruction to make progress in school. So
I have a question. And I feel like I used to know the answer to this, but based on what you just said, I'm not 100% sure anymore. Can you have both an IEP and a 504? Should you have both an IEP and a 504?
I think, from my research you could, but I don't think you should.
Okay.
I think if you have an IEP, that should be the focus. Because even if you don't have a 504 plan, if the district discriminates against you on the basis of your disability, you can sue under 504 for money damages. You don't have to have a 504 plan to enforce your 504 plan rights.
And further question, sorry, I don't mean to throw you off your rhythm, but it sounds like to me, Bonnie, that your preference for a school-aged individual on the autism spectrum, if possible, is to have an IEP. But sometimes schools don't. They give a child a 504. But your preference as a lawyer, a special education lawyer, it sounds like it's a little bit more. It's not access, but you have more actionable if you have an IEP. Is that accurate?
not necessarily, because if you have disability discrimination that violates Section 504, it's very actionable. It's not that it's not actionable, but
Okay.
we'll come back to what's required, because one of the problems with 504 is you have to exhaust your administrative remedies, which means you have to go to hearing first administratively and exhaust your 504 claims before you can sue in court. But we've talked about on this show the fact that there's a difference between educational impact under the IDEA and academic impact. And school districts have tried to define educational impact, which is what's in the statute, narrowly, so that they didn't have to, provide somebody with an IEP if they were, let's say, if they had at least average cognition and they could sort of do the work. But what we looked at also is that when you do the initial assessment for IDEA eligibility, you don't just look at academic ability. You look at social, emotional, and these other things. And the reason for looking at those things is because once you turn 18, if you have an IEP, you become responsible for your own educational rights, and you are supposed to have a transition plan that prepares you for adult employment. And if you aren't able to observe the normal social routines, it's going to be hard for you to move on in your life as an adult who had an IEP and is now in charge of your education and or working for a living. So we know that the test is educational impact, requiring special education and related services, but we also watch as the districts over and over again try to define educational impact very narrowly, which is how they kick kids with autism off of their IEPs. Okay, so like you have a very bright student with autism who is getting some of the best grades in the class, but when he goes out to the play yard, all he can talk about is Angry Birds, and his peers are shunning him because he's not picking up on the fact that everybody has reciprocal conversation and he doesn't. So that's how you get an IEP. You have one of the 13 qualifying disabilities, and you have to require specialized instruction to learn in the general ed setting. Whereas with a 504 plan, there are two requirements. One, you have to have a disability, but it's way broader than the 13 disabilities. You could have asthma. Well, asthma is covered under the IDEA. It's way broader than 13 disabilities. Although, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of conditions would fit under other health impairment, because that's a catch-all category for the IDEA. A lot of mental health categories would fit under the IDEA under emotional disturbance. But anyway, the Section 504 has a broader definition of disability, and the disability must interfere with the child's ability to learn in the general education classroom. So the 504 language says the disability must substantially limit one or more basic life activities. This can include learning, reading, communicating, and thinking. That's why a child who doesn't qualify for an IEP still might be able to get a 504 plan.
So Bonnie, we had a question come in. My daughter was denied an IEP. She has selective mutism, OCD, and ADHD. If she goes back to school, I had planned on asking for a 504.
Well, I would say that the selective mutism is a significant diagnosis. Does it not have any impact on her ability to socialize in school? I mean, it sounds to me like you might have an issue with a bad and kind of too narrow assessment. So that's one I would take to a lawyer. I wouldn't go for the 504 plan. I think based on knowing almost nothing about your case, you could show that the selective mutism, the OCD and the ADHD has an educational impact. Okay, you're saying
It does have an impact, but she can sign.
does it have a social impact?
I don't see how it couldn't. I got to be honest. Not on her end necessarily, but on the other kids.
Doesn't she need, in addition to accommodations, doesn't she need social support? Or they denied her because I taught her how to use sign language, and they said that's her form of communication. Well, I think you're in the category of, I don't know what state you're in, but you need to talk to an attorney.
Yeah, I agree.
You could give us more facts later, and we could try to answer it on the show. But I mean, I'd probably want to look at the district assessment, and I'm guessing I'd be able to find a lot of things wrong with it.
And let's just say at this moment that
Amanda, are you in California?
And for Tollner and for Bonnie, it's basically, we're talking about California, Nevada, Arizona, but if you're not in one of those,
California, if she's in California, there's a way to show that district assessment to a psychologist, and the psychologist can tell you whether she doesn't think the disability has an educational impact. Okay, well, you need to talk to a lawyer in your state. I don't think the 504 plan is going to get you probably the kind of psychological services and social support that she needs.
But you recommend going to COPA, C-O-P-A-A.
I do, because I think that's a largely reputable group of attorneys that have been part of the disability community for a long time, and they're taking the trouble to pay a membership to an organization that's a really good organization. So yeah, I would start there, definitely.
We're seeing more and more of this though, Bonnie. I don't know if you're seeing this in your practice, where schools are trying really hard to deny people IEPs and then make people have to work for even that first thing of getting the IEP. It's a bummer.
Well, it is, but we've talked about this before on the show. The threshold for assessment, if you suspect your child of having a disability, is low. And, you should be writing your district a letter and saying, I think my child qualifies for an IEP. I want her assessed. Here are the reasons. We've talked a lot about special education rights and responsibilities, that booklet, which you can find from Protection and Advocacy. You can also look at Rights Law. They have sample letters on how you can write an initial letter asking for a referral to special education. But this actually dovetails in nicely with the next point about the differences between the 504 and the IEP. Under the IDEA, you can ask for an independent educational evaluation at district expense. 504 does not have such a provision. So that's one of the different things that you're opting into. If you have an IEP versus a 504, is you're going to have an ability to challenge district assessments as they come up if you think they're not appropriate. In terms of the 504 team, the 504 team is not a specific team that has to all come together. Whereas for the IEP team, you have very specific individuals at a minimum that have to, participate. So the child's parent or caregiver, there always has to be a general education teacher there. There has to be a special education there. There has to be a school psychologist there if you're either revisiting eligibility or who can interpret evaluations. And then you have to have a decision maker there that has the authority to offer whatever is necessary to provide FAPE. And I will tell you all, in general, when districts are trying to ask you to excuse people and sign written excusal, you have to be really careful with that. And you shouldn't just do it because they're making you feel uncomfortable. I mean, the whole idea of having a comprehensive team is there in place for a reason, but that's a side point. So anyway, the IEP team is quite different. The other thing about the IEP meeting is you can give 24 hours written notice and you can record the meeting. Under 504, you can't. Now, I talked to a parent recently that had a horrific experience under 504, and she made an Office of Civil Rights complaint to the federal government, and they came down and they looked at everything, and they were so concerned that they actually told the district, you better fix this. And that mom told me that she'd been able to record all her 504 meetings. She's the first mom I ever talked to that told me that. Everybody else has told me they haven't been able to record. And when I've gone to 504 meetings, I haven't been able to record. So don't count on recording.
Okay, I want to just briefly go back because you were saying the excusal. I want to make sure that everybody, so if I'm correct, that's when they say to you, because we all have experienced this, when they say, oh, you don't mind, you know, the English teacher is supposed to be here, but she needs to get back to class with the sub called in. You don't mind if they're not here, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then
And a lot of times I will go, yeah, no, we don't need you here. And then later I go, oh, why did I say that? We kind of needed her here.
Yeah. I mean, generally you do need them there, and you aren't going to know whether you need them or not until after you've excused them. So if I do that, I do it because I'm fairly confident that I've got a handle on what I need to get done. And I always say, can you leave your cell phone on, and can we call you if we have a question?
Oh, that's a good point.
But you're supposed to have those people there to help you develop the present levels of performance and to help you develop measurable goals and objectives. And for somebody in general ed, you need somebody that's knowledgeable about the general education curriculum, and that's going to be the general ed teacher. They don't have to have all the teachers there. They have to have one general ed teacher there. Now, if your student goes to a non-public or a private school and it's all special education students and all special education teachers, there's no requirement that they have a general education teacher there. If your child is 3 to 5, they're preschooler, there's no requirement that you have a general education teacher there. But starting at kindergarten, you're supposed to have a gen ed teacher there. If the student is or may be participating in general education. So if your child hasn't been in general education and you want to have a meeting to discuss future mainstreaming, you need a general education teacher there. She could talk about what is the, excuse me, what is the structure of the various classes and where would be a good place to start with the mainstreaming, and so on. Anyway, in terms of the difference between the IEP and the 504 plan, there is really no standard for a 504 plan. It just generally is going to, it doesn't even have to be a written document. So get that. It doesn't even have to be a written document. 504 plan generally includes specific accommodations, supports, and services for the child, names of who will provide each service, and the name of the person responsible for ensuring the plan is implemented. Well, I've seen a lot of 504 plans that aren't even that specific, right? Whereas, the IEP, because we've talked about the structure so many times, it starts with present levels of academic and functional performance. It talks about annual goals that have to be measurable and how they're going to be tracked, right? So the objectives, the services the child will get, which includes extended school year services, which you don't have a right to under 504. The timing of services, accommodations and modifications, how the child will participate in standardized tests, and how the child will be included in general education activities and school activities. So you can see they're quite different. They're quite different. There's no stay put under a 504 plan. They have to tell you if they're going to change your services. They don't even have to, or your accommodations. It doesn't have to be in writing. Whereas when the district wants to change your services under an IEP, they have to provide you with prior written notice, and you also have your stay put rights if you disagree. Both require consent for evaluations. And the IEP also requires consent before the provision of services. The rules on how often a 504 plan is reviewed vary state by state. It can be annually, and it could be less often than that. There aren't really strict timelines as far as the 504 plan. Whereas the
We've got a question, Bonnie. I think we've heard of many people going from an IEP to a 504, but can you go from a 504 to an IEP?
Yeah, and a lot of the cases I've done have been somebody that's on a 504 plan for ADHD, because ADHD is not one of the 13 eligibility categories. You have to show that your ADHD has a significant educational impact. So you absolutely, yes, can go from a 504 to an IEP.
Okay. Thank you.
The IEP is reviewed annually, and eligibility is looked at every 3 years. So that's different. Whereas with a 504 plan, it's kind of state by state or district by district. Okay, so families do have dispute resolution procedures under 504 that none of us has ever heard of. And that's because these procedures are not usually utilized, and parents don't know about them, and districts don't do them. But you have the right under a 504 plan to mediation, alternative dispute resolution. You have a right to a hearing. You have a right to complain to the Office of Civil Rights, and you have a right to file a lawsuit. But you don't usually hear too much about that, because the 504 plan hearing is not something that you can receive attorney fee reimbursement for if you do things at that level. You only get into having a right to seek attorney's fees under 504 once you file a lawsuit. And I don't mean like a due process complaint. I mean like a federal court lawsuit. Whereas under the IDEA, if people don't know this, you go to your IEP meeting, you disagree, you file for due process. Administratively, when you sit down at a mediation and you settle the case, it's going to include attorney's fees. So because of that, that's where the work has mostly been done, is that, under the IDEA, which gives you mediation, due process, a resolution session, the potential for a civil lawsuit, a state complaint, and so on. So there are more ways to resolve disputes under the IDEA and to get parents reimbursed for attorney's fees. So that's where the focus tends to be. As far as funding goes, in both cases, if the students are going to receive services, they have to be free of charge. But states receive additional funding for students with IEPs, whereas not for 504. So those are some of the differences kind of at the school level. The next part of the conversation is what happens with 504 once you've exhausted your administrative remedies. And maybe that's something we're going to talk about next week, because it looks like we're...
Okay, yeah, we're getting close. I do have a question though. What you just said, that so if your student has an IEP, then your student's school will receive some funding for those services. If they have a 504, the school doesn't receive funding for it. So why aren't schools pushing for the IEP instead of the 504? Is it that the funding they get doesn't actually cover the services?
No, it's because it's almost always a case that districts give 504 accommodations and they don't give services. And they even tell parents you only get accommodations out under 504, not services. And the reason they like 504 is lack of accountability procedures.
I would think they would be greedy though for the money. I guess that doesn't outweigh it.
It's not that much money.
Okay. All right.
And the way I would think about it if I were an administrator is whatever money I get if the parent sues me under the IDEA, all that money's gone.
Okay. That makes a certain amount of sense.
It's not clear to those of you on the show that have been listening for a while, we might as well get into full disclosure here. Almost every case I do ends up in either a decision or a settlement agreement that involves the provision of attorney's fees. And those fees are expensive to districts, and they hate them. They hate
as they should.
Yeah,
I just wish they hated it so much that they did what was right to start.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. But the thing for the listeners to understand is that still remains the main kind of carrot or stick or whatever you want to call it. And so, and they all have really high caseloads. So it's much easier for them to have a 504 meeting that'll take 30 minutes and doesn't require a lot of prep and doesn't require them to come back annually and show progress. So that's why they like the 504 plans.
Okay, good to know. I'm going to ask you a question, Bonnie.
Thing. I have run into at least one psychologist, and I'm not going to say more about it, but I think there are more than just her, who did not understand the difference between 504 and the IDEA after many years in practice. And she would write in her reports, she'd write the whole thing up, and then she'd say the kid qualifies for a 504 plan, as if she was giving the parent something great. Yeah. So I get a report that says the kid has all these problems, they should be eligible for a 504 plan. I'm like, oh, shoot. Because once you give that to the district's going to come back to you and say, your own expert recommended a 504 plan.
Yeah, well, frustrating. I want to empower parents, as you have throughout this that ask questions, seek out legal help. If you're in California, Nevada, Arizona, you can reach out to Tollner Law Offices. If you're in other states, reach out to copaa.net and get some support for you, because this is the basis for everything. We can talk about everything else that you're going to argue with the school district, but if you have that IEP, you're going to be arguing from a different place than if you don't. Correct, Bonnie?
Yeah, and the chart didn't mention this, but it occurs to me you don't have the right to an individualized transition plan under 504.
There you go.
To prepare you for adult employment. But generally speaking, I mean, people, if there are 100 of you and you have a kid with ADHD, 75 of them are going to probably have ADHD of the sort that's going to require an IEP.
There you go.
So there are some people with ADHD who are medicated or not, or their ADHD is mild and they're just fine without an IEP. So that might be the case or it might not be. But just because you have ADHD does not mean that it's not severe enough to have an educational impact such that you should not be on a 504 plan and you should have an IEP.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question, Bonnie, but I don't want you to give your answer this week. I'd like you to mull it and see, maybe next week.
M-U-L-L-E-T-T?
Yeah. I want you to mull it.
I know. I couldn't resist.
No, not mullet. But I believe we are all clear that we're having a different administration taking over in January, and that will mean saying goodbye to Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education. Wondering if there was one thing that you would like to see the new person come in and do, what would it be? You don't have to answer right now. I'd like for you to.
I can mull that, but I do want to say that DeVos exceeded expectations during the pandemic in terms of not letting the district and the federal government off the hook.
And so I don't disagree.
Even DeVos had her moment. That was her moment.
Yes, I don't disagree at all. And I'm not, I will be clear that I was not a fan of Betsy DeVos at all, and I won't be sorry to see her go. I believe that what she did during the pandemic was really helpful. There's just a part of me that doesn't, I don't think that she understands what part of it she did that was helpful. But I'll take it. And that's just me. But I'm anxious to see, especially, there's been much buzz about the fact that Jill Biden is a school teacher. So I'm interested to see what that translates to. And of course, Joe Biden had it in his platform that he wanted to fully fund IDEA. So that he would be the first president to do that if in fact he did that. And I don't know that he can in a pandemic. I don't know that it's possible, but it would be interesting to see if IDEA.
How about a surcharge on Amazon to pay for special ed?
Could we? That's a great idea, Bonnie. That's a great idea.
I don't know that we could, but they've got some bucks.
That's true. Let's get a hold of Jeff Bezos.
Yeah,
and
Jeff, are
see.
you interested? See me after this call.
Well, you know what? I mean, on Amazon, they have that smile thing that you can choose to give to a charity. What if they put IDEA on there? That would be easy. They could do that next week for all of us to get to choose to give money to fully fund IDEA. Bonnie?
I bet it's only private charities. There'd be all kinds of constitutional issues with them. Well, I don't know. This isn't my area.
But it's a brilliant idea.
But before I say something that really like shoots myself in the foot.
Okay. Right. I adore you.
Everybody. Thank you, Shannon.
Tollner Law Offices. Reach out to Bonnie. They're fabulous. She's fabulous. We'll see you next week, Bonnie.
All right. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
We're totally out of time here, you guys, but I want to remind you, big week. Don't forget, check out the toy guide, autism-live.com. Click on the toy guide. There's something for everyone. I have one of the other things. It must be Caregiver Day here. This is my tongue drum. This is one of the things, and I don't have my mallets here, but what a wonderful thing. I'm going to play us out. We will see you guys tomorrow. It's a Best of Temple Grandin tomorrow. So until then, give your kiddos a hug for me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from my house. And Mama is on the warpath. Let me just tell you, I'm so excited to be here with you guys, but I just got off a customer service call. In fact, I think my husband is still on it. And my blood pressure is like up here, and I'm saying to Liberty Mutual Insurance. Like seriously, if you've seen the commercials, we had switched like 2 years ago to Liberty Mutual, and I'm so sorry. And I'm now looking for another insurance provider for my car. And I'm telling you, to Liberty Mutual. Craziness. Doesn't it make you like, I want somebody to do a funny skit about being on the phone with customer service anyway. Absolutely horrible. But these people are crazy at Liberty Mutual. So I do not endorse, do not recommend that you use Liberty Mutual there. Anyway, thrilled to be here with you guys. And we've got a great guest and great topic today. And I'm really excited that we have this opportunity to be together. So I am Shannon Penrod, and I am a mom of a wonderful young man who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5 and is now I think we're 2 days away from him officially being 17 and a half. Like, that's just crazy that my child could be that old. And can I also tell you guys that he's applying to 13 colleges and we have 6 applications in. And so we only have 7 left to go. And look, my hair is only white. By the time we're done, it might be purple. But very excited that that is my circumstance, that when he was 2.5 and diagnosed, to believe that at 17.5, we would be like, okay, we just have to get this college application done. And he's doing all the work. I just have to check it before he pushes send. And of course, I have to give the credit card number to pay for the admission. I could buy a car or afford car insurance with Liberty Mutual for what it's costing for him to apply. It's all good. How do we get from there to here? You know, it's a long story, but I can make it short by saying good quality ABA at the right intensity for the right amount of time. And more of you have access to that. And so I want to help you to figure out how you can make that work, because sometimes the logistics of it is, you know, just cray. But when there's a will, there's a way. And, you know, I love to be here to help support all of you. This show is really meant to be for information and inspiration of all kinds, not just about ABA, but that's a good chunk because insurance is covering it and it's effective, right? But you got to do it the right way, the right intensity, the right amount of time. But we want to help you. And we always say that si se puede, right? We hold hands and we can do this. And when we say we, I'm talking about the larger autism community. Starts with individuals who are on the autism spectrum. They are the beating heart of our community. They are our big why, right? And so we, of course, want to provide information and inspiration for them and allow them to have a voice here on the show. But also, we want to include everyone who loves those individuals. They're a part of the community as well, because we are all different, but we all have one main mission, and that is to help support individuals on the spectrum, make sure that they are offered the dignity, the opportunity, the chance to love who they love, to live where they want to live, and work where they want to work, right? Because that's the way it should be, and it isn't yet. So we are all working towards that. Good morning to Amanda, and good morning to Christina. So we're going to be with you live for the next hour, and there's lots of ways to connect. Traven is probably going to show you some of the ways to connect. I want to remind you that we're right now live on YouTube, on Periscope, Twitter, and Facebook. I always forget Facebook. I can't forget Facebook. We're live all of those places. Plus, I think we are live on our homepage, autism-live.com. So you can watch us any of those places live. I really encourage you, if you want to interact while we're live, best places to do it are Facebook, YouTube, but also Twitter and Periscope. If you're watching us in podcast form on any one of the myriads of places that you can catch our free podcast, we're a free download on iTunes, any place, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music. I mean, all of those places, we're a free download. If you are watching there and you suddenly have a question, and you're like, I want to ask my question, you've got really two great ways to do it. One is to go to our homepage, autism-live.com, and there's a chat at the bottom. Just put your question there in the chat and we'll try to answer it during the next live show. Or you can email me directly, s.penrod@autism-live.com. And I know people like to send us messages on Facebook, and I try to get back to those on a regular basis. It's just I'm a little bit less efficient. We're running lean right now during COVID. Our staff is smaller than it's been in a while. And mama getting old. So I do the best I can. I know sometimes some of you will catch me at midnight on Friday night on Facebook, and sometimes, it's catch as catch can. But I generally try to answer those as much as I can, as often as I can. But it's not the most efficient way. It's actually better to do it the other way. So thrilled to be here. We got this great guest, one of my favorite guests. Dina Kimmel is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. We're saying good morning to Renat. She says, hello, glad to see you. It is important to know we as parents are not alone through this. Oh my gosh. Right? Because we all feel like we're on a planet on Mars. We're on a planet. Mars is a planet. We feel like we're alone on Mars. That's what I want to say. But none of us are alone. We are always, we have sisters and brothers that are on this journey too. And it's good to know when, and to be with those people every once in a while, go, oh, I don't have to explain myself. These folks get it, right? And I will be honest with you, one of my favorite things while we were in early intervention was when there was an autism event that we could go to, and I would be surrounded by my peeps, my tribe, and something would happen and I wouldn't feel the need to apologize, right? A lot of those opportunities have been diminished because we're all in isolation, but we have the best guest for this because she has created the place where none of us ever have to apologize, which is wonderful, wonderful. So Dina Kimmel is going to be joining us in just a few minutes, but if you watch the show, hello, do I say Pantoja? That's a beautiful, beautiful name. So Christina says, that I might be old, but I'm always great. Well, not always, but we try. In any case, before we get to Dina, I want to very quickly get through our jargon of the day and question of the day, because it is time for what we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. And you'll see how this all comes together. It's like somebody had a plan. So our jargon of the day is not ape. I know it looks like it says ape, but it's not. It's alphabet land. Good morning, Kirsten. So thrilled that you're here. It is not an ape. Look at you, Traven, so fast with the the graphics. It is not an ape. So let's take a look at what our actual definition of APE is. This stands for adaptive physical education, not an ape, as our APE was very fond of always telling us. Does not stand for ape. Okay, but let's move on to our working definition, because it's like, well, okay, adaptive physical education, what's that got to do with me? So it's gross motor and recreational support to help a student reach their physical education goals. So, here in the United States, we have goals for every student, and it kind of waxes and wanes about, each state. I can remember as a kid, we had certain things we had to be able to do by the end of each school year. We had to be able to do a certain number of squat thrusts, and we had to be able to do a certain number of sit-ups, and you had to be able to climb a certain height on the rope. And it always, was sweat time when we had to work on these. And you had to be able to run back and forth between two lines within a certain amount of time. I hated it. And the rope thing, I was willing to be hit by a car rather than have to do the rope thing. Thank you, Kirsten, for saying, is this kind of like OT? Well, a lot of people confuse it with OT, but it's not. Because in OT, we're working on life skills and a lot of fine motor stuff. Whereas in APE, we're trying to do everything that we would need to do to help this individual be a part of your typical gym class. And if you think about all the different things that people may have and experience, like one kiddo might just be very uncoordinated. And when it comes time to climb the rope, that takes a lot of coordination and core strength to climb a rope. So maybe that's all that this child needs to do, is to work on coordination. Whereas think about a child who's in a wheelchair, and how they participate in a typical physical education class is going to look vastly different, right? So that adaptive PE teacher would be working on helping that individual to bring their skill level to a point where they can be included. The goal is always to be included in the gen ed physical education, and there would be an IEP, and there would be goals that were appropriate for that individual. Because we wouldn't expect, for instance, the kiddo in a wheelchair to be able to run when my son was going through junior high, they had a thing where you had to be able to run a mile within a certain number of time, and they would work on it all year long. But obviously, for some kiddos, that's not an appropriate goal, but we don't want to leave them out. So APE is the bridge for physical education to be working on goals, gross motor goals, for that individual that are appropriate, and to help them to make a transition whenever possible so that they can take a physical education class alongside their peers. Somebody says, unfortunately, I find PE is hard to know what accommodations are since we aren't there and teachers don't tell us what is happening on a daily basis. And how do we find out? What a great question, Renat. So when, at any point, you can ask for an evaluation to be done of your child for physical education. There are lots of different ways to go about that, but the quickest way is to put it in writing and send it to whoever is the person assigned to your child's case at school. Sometimes it's the speech teacher, sometimes it's the RS teacher, but somebody is the team leader for your child's case if you already have an IEP. And you would put it in writing saying, hi, I would like for my son to be evaluated to see if, or daughter, I don't want to assume, that I would like for my child or my teen to be evaluated to see if they qualify for APE services. And they have a certain amount of time in which to do the evaluation. And it's one of those services that most schools have, like speech and OT, and they're willing to give it. So you shouldn't get a lot of pushback on it. But sometimes schools are stingy. If you ask for the evaluation, they either have to give you a denial in writing saying that they don't want to do it, or they have to do the evaluation. Then you look at the evaluation and see if you agree with it. But a lot of times the evaluation is done by the person who would actually be giving the services, and they like to have a job. So they will be pretty fair and seeing, okay, this child could use, or this team could use some more support to be able to do this. Don't give up on it though. If they don't have an APE, or they are saying that they don't have anybody to do the evaluation, you need to push. Your child has a right to that. And we can talk with Bonnie about what kinds of language. Bonnie Yates, our special education attorney who joins us on Mondays. But This can be really important because the physical side of things, and we're going to talk with Dina, she's going to tell us about this. But I just want to throw one thing out at you that we know research has shown us that when our kids cross the midline, it's more about, it's great for them physically, but it's also great for them cognitively. That if kiddos are doing things where they're crossing over their body, they will score better on an IQ test than if they don't. Whoa, magic trick. But it's important that plus there's this sensory regulation stuff. We'll talk with Bonnie about all this. Would a student need to do this in order to participate in a school organized sport? Not necessarily, because not all kids need adaptive physical education. Like some kids are just really good at sports. But if your child is being denied participating in a school organized sport, the first thing I would do is ask for an evaluation and get the APE support. And I would be asking them to make accommodations in the school sport for your child, because under the ADA, they cannot discriminate against your child for that. Renat says, this is great info. I never knew this existed and that we could help. I thought when asked for a full evaluation, this would be included. Not always. Let's face it. A lot of people will do just what you ask them, right? But so here, you think this is great? Let me also rock your world that there is such a thing as a recreational therapist too. Now, sometimes the APE will deal with some of this, but if your child is struggling on the playground, you can ask for an evaluation for a recreational therapist. Schools have much less of this, but it's a thing. You can ask for it, get your kiddo evaluated, because a lot of times in the IEP, they'll say, we're giving you a one-on-one aid, but during recess, that aid will take a break. And that's the time when your kid almost needs it most. So you can ask for an evaluation for the recreational aid. When they find that you do need one, you'll have your one-on-one aid for the rest of the day. And the recreational aid shows up for the period of time while your kid is on the playground. Oh, angels sing. And that does the recreational aids. I got to tell you this, they're like the greatest thing for social skills under the face of the earth at school. Because they're working on all the misconnections, not just the, what am I playing on the playground? Can I play it? But how do I deal with the fact that when, this friend wants to switch games, what do I do? So there's all that social component to it. Love it. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you. And our question today, I don't remember what it is. It's blank. We have no question of the day. Do you really have one? There it is. Okay. What's your favorite way to exercise? Obviously mine is yapping my gums, talking. But aside from that, I love to dance. I used to do all those dance aerobics classes. And now I'm doing the treadmill, and the treadmill's working for me, but it's not my favorite thing. I every once in a while I put music on and I try to dance on the treadmill, and then I come very close to spraining something or breaking a window. It flings me back on. It's not good. It's called a recreational therapist, Renat. She says, well, you blew my mind. I know, right? The first time I heard about it blew my mind too. But let me know, you guys, what's your favorite way to exercise? What do you love to exercise? Because for me, if it's music and moving my body, I'm happy to do things that otherwise I wouldn't do. Right before the pandemic, we went to the Valentine's Day dance at the Ed Asner Family Center, which was the most fun. And I got to get Dina to go to when we're out of pandemic and able to do this. So much fun. And a bunch of us autism moms we put all of our purses in the middle like you used to do. And we were dancing. They were playing a lot of 80s music. And later on, we all admitted that at least one time that we were afraid that they were going to have to call an ambulance for each one of us. So, but that's a good time. And there were no ambulances called. So I enjoy that. But what's your favorite way to exercise? Let's talk this out. All right, moving on. We always have a topic of the week. And this week we have been talking about every waking hour. How if we make every waking hour an educational, enriched environment for our kiddos, then we're going to see the best possible success, right? But we can't leave out of that the moving of the body. I think if there's one thing that COVID has brought home for me, it's that it's so important for us to regulate all of our senses. We have to be moving. We have to be moving. If and Amanda says swimming, I say it all the time, LOL. Yes, and if you can swim all of the time, I have a friend who just bought a house in New Jersey with an indoor swimming pool. Now, to me, this is the height of everything. To have an indoor swimming pool, get out. How exciting. Kirsten says, chasing after my 5-year-old at the park. Yeah. I mean, but at least he's moving, you're moving, and you're getting that blood pumping. That's really one of the core things for sensory regulation. Renat says, exercise, what's that? I really need to make time for me. Yeah, but if you can't do it yet for me, do it with your kiddo. You can make the house an obstacle course, and you can run the obstacle course with them. If you've got more than one kiddo, we used to love the putting kids in the littlest one in the laundry basket, and you take turns, your older kid dragging the smaller one around, and then you put both of them in and you drag them around in the laundry basket and push and pull. You'll feel better. You'll sleep better. And it helps us all we got to get our yayas out. I always have said that about our kiddos, but in COVID, man, oh Shevitz, I have needed it too. If we didn't have the treadmill, I would have lost it by now. So yes, every waking hour, but make sure that you include in that something super physical. Hola to Alicia. We're so glad that you are here. So wonderful. I'm a minute late. We have this fabulous guest who's here today. I've been referencing her the whole time. Dina Kimmel. She's the founder of the We Rock the Spectrum Kids Gyms. It's the kids gym for all kids. And, I say this all the time. When I grow up, I want to be Dina. They call her Mama D because she is like a mama to so many people. We absolutely adore her. I think she is here with us. I have a teenager and 12-year-old. I used to do things with them, but now that they are older, it's different. It is, but you can find other things to do with them. And if you make it there's Dina Kimmel. Look at you. You look lovely. I don't have your sound though. Are you there?
How's that?
That's so much better. I can hear you.
How are you?
I'm good, and I'm better because you're here. I was saying before, you are the founder of the We Rock the Spectrum Kids Gyms, which are fabulous. If people don't know what that is, give them the 411.
Wow. All I have to say is right now, I am so grateful that never been more grateful now than ever that I'm the founder of We Rock, only for my own family, of course, and all the families that are still able to use our gyms. So we are an indoor sensory gym, and what that means is, as you've just been talking about, and I'm reading all the responses from the public, this is what we desperately need right now. This is what we desperately need every day. But we're an inclusive indoor gym, which is for all kids. This was started out of the, inspiration of my own son, Gabriel, who we could not go from A to B and were kicked out of several places. I'm sure you dealt with the same as we've spoken about, Shannon, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, we need to create an inclusive indoor playground area. And now here we are. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. I cannot believe it, in August. And here we are. It's the pandemic, and we're all the world has out there right now. I can say that. Yeah. We're it. We're in Los Angeles right now, and you and I, and I'm sure you just got the new order and saw that it's tightened it back again, our lockdown here in Los Angeles. But there I am. I've never read more orders across the United States of America to assist my owners and what's okay and are we deemed essential, but we're able to be deemed essential. And it's really what you just said. You were talking about exercise, and again, that's what We Rock does. As you say, I love how you say to get your yayas out, the trampoline, all the swings and the zip lines. And that's what our kids need. And the fact that we're able to still stay open, we couldn't at first. I didn't know what I was going to do when this lockdown happened, March 17th. Oh my gosh, what can we do? Okay, what I know what we can do now. What we can do now is we can take care of the first responders' kids. And that's what we did for free for 3 months. The nonprofit funded that for the public. But now here we are, we're able to be deemed essential because we cater to the children, who have IEPs. so they can come in, they can still, have fun, get their exercise in. And oh my gosh, the recreational therapist, Shannon is right. I just love that you brought that up, because again, we have them come in our gyms, Shannon. It's amazing. They'll come in the gyms and show the kiddos, okay, because some kiddos will just go around, who are on the spectrum, right? And they'll run around in circles and go, oh my God, this is so great. Even though this is a sensory safe environment, this is just too much to take in. And there's the recreational therapist, and they're guiding them and showing, okay, let's go on the zip line. Okay, not 15 times, let's do it 3 times. And then they go and jump, 50 times on the trampoline. They are great recreational therapists. Gabriel has one, and it's been a lifesaver the last 5 years. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because they come into the We Rock the Spectrums, even now during COVID. It's still just like a doctor's office or what have you. It's only one parent or one therapist along with the kiddo. But oh my gosh, I'm just so grateful that we're able to be open. My owners are having a heck of a time though, Shannon. It's been really hard.
I can't even imagine, but I'm so grateful to you. And I know so many families are grateful to you. We should say too that, you're not open in the way that you used to be open, but, there are a lot of parents out there that are like, I want to have one special day for my kiddo, or it's their birthday and I want to have just 2 or 3 kids, that you can rent out the gym for your family. You have these amazing cleaning techniques, so that you've been so great through all of this. Everybody has said you're really a leader in this. And reach out, because you're all over the United States and you're in Malaysia and other places now. So look and see if there's a We Rock near you, and see what is available to you, whether it's that you want to have your child be there during their school time. Because I'm all the time telling you guys, when it's time to take a break, your kids have to do something physical. There are kids taking their at-home schooling at the We Rock, and and then taking that break and running around. Those kids are being successful because they're getting the whole thing. They're getting support, help, and their parents are working. So reach out if you need this. Reach out. Somebody says, I wish I knew about that when my son started school. Well, it's not too late. So
all ages. We have a 16-year-old virtual learner in the gym right now, that's doing doing his virtual learning, and you should see him. This is the beauty of We Rock. I've always told you, Shannon, that I love. There's a 1-year-old over there and there's a 16-year-old. And you will never find another indoor, play area where you can find a, whoops, did I lose you?
No, I'm here. You're fine. We just wanted to see you bigger.
Oh, I'm like, no, not bigger. Please.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Sorry about that. I thought I was on your show all by myself.
No.
But where you see like a 1-year-old and you see a 16-year-old in the same area and playing beautifully together. I mean, I could show you photos. It's just incredible to see this organic environment, that's built on love, inclusion. I'm gonna start crying. I'm very emotional today. I'm just letting you know, passion, with purpose, because like I said, we are it for so many. We can do the private facility rentals. So you guys all know out there, viewers, we can do the low capacity open play in some states, not here right now in Los Angeles, but you can rent out the gym. You can drop off your kid and have their virtual learning in the gym. So you could even take a break. Forget about if you don't have a job right now. Some people just need a break, Shannon. I have to tell you, it's scary right now what's going on with parents. I mean, therapies have stopped. Have you seen that? I mean, with the ABA?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of ABA therapists have stopped their therapy. CARD has not. But it's hard. There's a shortage of therapists. Even at CARD, it's really hard because there aren't enough therapists, and we're desperate to get people to work. So I'm all the time telling people, if they need jobs, we need good therapists. But it's hard. I am so worried about our parents, because this is hard no matter when, but COVID has just made it harder. And the more it goes on, I was just saying this the other day, I see a lot of people who are like, I can do this. And then they're hitting the wall right now. It's just like, okay, I could do it for 9 months, but I can't do this forever. Okay. So I just want to say that a whole bunch of people are spreading love on you. Kirsten says, I just discovered this place. You rock. Kirsten, you're going to lose your mind because this is just going to be so great for you. And Renat says, where have you been all my life? Did I not start by saying that when I grow up, I want to be Dina Kimmel? This is why.
Oh, please, right back at you.
But they live in Texas. They want to know, can we do something virtual? But correct me, do you have places in Texas? You do, don't you?
Oh, no, we have gyms in Texas, absolutely. And definitely go on any of our locations pages and they will give you all of our spots. We've got amazing gyms that are opening soon. Okay, in Texas, we have ones that are open. Oh my gosh, Texas is huge. Houston, we have a few locations. Sugarland, Houston Memorial. We have San Antonio, amazing owners out there. They've been with us for 5 years. So no, we've got great locations. I'm not sure if maybe they're asking, do you do virtual classes or anything? You know, what I really wanted to come on and talk to you about, which is near and dear to my heart right now, is what you talked about earlier. We have mental health issues going on right now. We have parents that are being, they're going into mental health facilities, Shannon. They can't take it because unlike CARD, other states, Shannon, we're very grateful. We are very blessed in the state of California. There's no therapies. The COO of my company, Gail Field, she has been home with her son for 8.5 months. And has he regressed? Oh God, he has. Yeah. So there she is with a 10-year-old doing 2- and 3-year-old tantrums every single day. You know, she can't be in her gym. Gratefully, she has her, her husband and her daughter running the gym. But oh my gosh, it's been so hard for her and it's so painful. And I'm grateful that I can be there for her. But I really wanted to come on your show today. And of course, we have so many exciting things to talk about. But what I really wanted to talk to you about was that I am here. I am here for anyone, everywhere, wherever you are around the world. Okay, there is no charge for me. I will get on a Zoom and talk with you. I will talk you over the edge. I will keep you, where you need to be, which is focused on today and that moment. It is so hard for all of us. My Gabriel now is 16. When I started We Rock, he was 3. And in my home, I started We Rock when he was 3. And, it's hard for him. He's lonely. And what we forget is, yes, you can do Zoom. Please do Zoom, with your kiddos' friends. Reach out, even if you feel uncomfortable, just get out of that zone of, oh my gosh, feeling isolated, and reach out to fellow classmates or ones that you never had. Go on social media. Hey, is there any, 13, 14, 15-year-olds or 5-year-olds that want to go on a Zoom and just act crazy with my son today? Please, please, please reach out for help. Not only are we indoor sensory gyms, but the owners are leaders for you and your community. They're a resource for help. And I'm really scared right now for that. I'm scared for all of the parents and out there. The kiddos, listen, our kids are much more resilient, as you know, you and I know. They're much more resilient than we as parents. So, whether you have a 2-year-old or a 17-year-old or 13-year-old like me, our kids are going to be okay. But are you as the parent okay? Because if you're not, you need to reach out for help. And that's what We Rock is about also. It starts in the gym, Shannon, but what we do continues out for the whole entire community.
Well, and Dina is just a leader in the community. She did a resource fair, a virtual resource fair a couple of months ago. And I have to tell you, I came to just talk about Autism Live, but I hung around and saw some other things. And you've been telling me about a couple of resources for a long time. But COVID has made me, pay attention a little bit better. I know. So you turned us on to Zeus Fitness too. And my son has been doing virtual private training, and it's been a lifesaver, Dina, because of you. So, Dina has her own channel that's full of resources called Rock on the Spectrum. And she does give one-on-one with parents like nobody else. So where should they go to connect with that, Dina? Because it's such a
and this is free, Shannon. We're not charging anything.
You're amazing.
Right now.
So where do they need to go?
Donating my time. Well, email in directly, to me. Email in at Dina, D-I-N-A, at WRTSfranchise.com. I am taking all my emails personally myself. No one's answering them, me. So you guys can have me firsthand. And you know what? We can cry together. We'll laugh together. Whatever each and every one of you need. But we are all in this together. As someone wrote earlier, we are stronger together. And I know that sounds so cliche, and some of you want to say, you know what, oh, forget you. But you know what? It's hard. Today might be a hard day. Tomorrow is going to be a better day if you reach out for help. And
Absolutely.
I have to tell you and do a shout out to each and every one of my owners. God bless you all. You are warriors. You are innovators. I've never been more proud to be the leader of this franchise than I am today. I really, really am. It has been incredible. And you know what? Some owners have lost their gym. We've had to pass the baton on to new owners, 6 of them, Shannon, in the last 8.5 months. And I want to continue in telling them how, devoted I will continue to be for you, even if you aren't in the Re-Rock the Spectrum family, because we've had to bring in new owners who have funding to back them to continue on that Re-Rock. But you know what? Bless their hearts. They don't care. Some of these owners have given their franchise, not charged. And we're not charging, obviously, franchise fees for these resales. They have given their franchises to other families, Shannon. Can you believe that? Not
Can't even.
charging 150,000. No, here you go. Just can you continue on what we're doing, because we can't bear to see this resource closed for the community.
Well, I gotta say, that's another part to this that I always talk about when you're on. If there are families that are out there and you're like, look, I need to have a job or a business, but I have my child, and my child needs a lot of this sensory input, and I don't quite know what to do. I'm at an impasse with my career and how this is going to work with autism. I've said that if Dina had started We Rock just a year before she did, I wouldn't be doing Autism Live. I would be a We Rock gym owner, because I was looking for an opportunity like this. And it just so happened that Autism Live happened like almost at the same time that you were doing We Rock. It was like at the same time. So by the time I met you, I was already entrenched in this. But that's what I would have done, because I was looking for a way of how can I make my own schedule? How can I, keep food on the table, but not necessarily become a millionaire, but be of service to the community, be of service to my child, and have what I'm doing be something that helps my child. Well, it's being a We Rock owner. It's not right for everybody, but if somebody is interested and they're like, wow, I never thought about that, I could own a franchise, a We Rock the Spectrum gym. How do they reach out to you for that? Same thing, Dina,
So
at
same
We Rock?
thing, the www.wrtsfranchise.com. And they fill out the questionnaire. Someone gets back to you within 24 hours, usually within, 3 to 5 hours. Oh, so sweet. I see some of your amazing comments. You are an inspiration being on here. Okay, Chris, and I have to tell you, just being on here and watching and spreading the love like you are, each and every one of you. But yes, that's how you can reach out. And, now is the opportunity. Let me talk about the business end for a second, because I don't
Yeah.
really want to right now. I feel like we need to focus on the support, but now is the time really out there in the world. And I'm proud that we do have these opportunities and these amazing owners who are giving their franchises basically to other people. But because of COVID, there are business opportunities that, aren't the full franchise fee. So we are just trying to help people and not charging full franchise fees, to just come on board and do what we are doing for the community, because again, we're it. And landlords out there, they want to work with us.
Yeah.
You can't, listen, the handful of owners that we've had to sell their gyms, that's because they had, not very supportive, okay, management companies who wanted to support them and abate their rent, to some extent, or defer it. But the ones that we're bringing on board now, landlords, I mean, the deals that we're doing for new indoor, We Rock the Spectrums have been incredible. So there is opportunity there if you are looking for something new. I know so many of you out there have lost your businesses, restaurants, clothing stores, jewelry stores, what have you. And I know, and we've got a lot of them inquiring, Shannon, because they are special needs parents going, wait,
Yep.
we've seen you open this entire pandemic. How have
Yep.
you done that? And I said,
Yep.
well, I was able to we will be able to be deemed essential. It took us time, but we did it. The LA Health Department, they were out here. I mean, they're all over the health departments across the states, again, servicing the special needs community. We are in need. We are a necessity, hence
Yeah.
essential. So
Well,
I just, like I said, like you, I want to tell you though, Shannon, thank you for being who you are. And although I would have loved to have you as a Re Rock the Spectrum owner, the world needs Shannon Penrod exactly where she is.
well, I don't know about that, but I would also tell you too that sometimes, it just feels warm and fuzzy to be a part of a group of people who are moving forward. And Dina's just so smart. That's why you're still open, because you're smart and you work harder than any 12 people I know. And I've been there when you have your get-togethers, not in COVID, with your different gym owners, and you're so inspirational, and you run things like a family. If you want the warm fuzzy and support. Boy, Dina, nobody does it better than Dina does. That's why I said I want to be her when I grow up. So definitely check out her website.
I want to be you when I grow up. Please don't even go there. And we've got we've got something exciting, of course, to share with everybody. I know you and I, but Shannon, like I said, we're helping families. If the families cannot afford to pay the $12, the $14, or the $75 to rent the gym all by themselves, just know that you can go to My Brother Rocks a Spectrum Foundation. We do have a nonprofit, and they can apply for there to get the funding. Right now, it's COVID. We know we are all hurting right now. Listen, I'm in a franchise. Am I charging my franchisees royalties? No, I can't right now. They can't afford it. They need every dollar that they can. So we're all doing our part here. And the nonprofit's still there to help families out there too. I do want to make sure that the public does know that as well.
Well, you're amazing. I mean, for any of you who have ever rented a place to do a birthday party, it's always that equation in my head. Okay, if I rent the place, then I don't have all in my house, which in COVID, come on. But you don't have to clean your house. You don't have to do all those things. You don't have to decorate, have it at the gym, right? You're always doing the math. But you and I both know if you go to rent a place to do a birthday party, you're going to pay a way lot more than what Dina just said. A way lot more. So, and this, not only that, you don't have to come up with activities because I've seen the kids at the gym, they lose their minds, have a great time. And then let's not forget that helps to regulate them sensory, and it helps them to sleep better, which means you get a break, then and later on. So it's all good.
And it's inclusive, right? It's inclusive. It's what our mission is, which inclusive. This isn't just for special needs kids, guys. This is for everyone. It's a kids gym for everyone. But minimum a third of the families that come in, because let's look at the statistics. 1 out of 6 kids have some form of sensory processing disorder or autism. That's real. That's worldwide. So again, that's what I love about We Rock is you will go into the gym. You're not going to know who's on the spectrum, who, has, physical, special abilities going on. We are all one together, or who has just say the general population, what I say. But that's again, our love and our mission of inclusion. It's so important. Okay. Especially right now, because we all as autism families feel very isolated. Like I said, my COO, again, if Gail, if you're watching, my hat's off to you. All of you mothers out there who are doing your virtual learning and being your kids' therapists, my hat is off to you. Okay. You guys are the soldiers. You guys are soldiers. We're going to get through this. We've got a couple more months. Let's hang in there before we all get vaccine. But please know that you can reach out to me. I'm so sorry that Shannon, I'm so passionate about that, but I'm hearing stories after stories of parents, they're just losing it, and they don't know where to go. And again, like I said, I just heard it from a, loved one that this lovely family, of mine in Australia, the mom had to be, enrolled in a mental institution. She couldn't handle the 2- and 3-year-old at home with autism. She had nowhere to go. So, oh, okay. I see people are commenting for you. So again, just please know, I know you, Shannon, you have the people, they reach out to you. So we're here to be a support to Autism Live and Shannon Penrod. And if you need us as well to reach out.
Well, I'm sending some love to Kirsten and Amanda and Alicia and Dawn, all who wrote in beautiful, beautiful things for us. And somebody has written in and said that they just looked it up and their closest gym is in Williamsburg, Virginia. It's about 45 minutes away. And they say it would be so nice to get out there with 3 special needs kids that I have here. And
well, I have sad news.
Oh,
news.
No.
That location did not make it. No, it shut down when COVID hit. The owner she was a single mom. This is again, very difficult decision that we had to make, but we are looking for a new owner, okay, to relocate for that area. But it's, gosh, look and see if there's somewhere else for you to go, Amanda. If there's another closer one, let me know and I will pay for it for you to go there. Do the drive. It's worth it. You will need it. Oh gosh, she's done the sad face. I'm so sorry. But we are looking for a new owner, for that area. But,
all right, who wants to take the Williamsburg, Virginia gym? Come on now. I feel like I'm at a PTA meeting. I need a volunteer to take the Williamsburg, Virginia office.
But it really shows
do you have any in Oregon, Dina? Are there any in Oregon yet?
We don't yet. We would love to put Oregon on the map. We're putting a new state, on the map. Actually, we just signed on a great new family for Nashville, Tennessee. Whoa, Tennessee, yay! And
Very
we've got
nice.
Rhode Island coming on board, and Saudi Arabia and Riyadh is being built right now. So, we need us. We need, we are needed everywhere for you guys
Right.
out there, and we want to be there for each and every one of you.
All right, so we're running out of time. I want to make sure that we talk about there's a very special event that you and I have partnered with. I believe this is the 7th year. Is that true, or is it the 6th?
The sixth year.
The 6th year. Okay, so
you like to make me older. You like to make me older. You're older, don't you?
So years ago, I don't remember exactly how this came about. I was thinking about doing a sensitive Santa event, and you happened to be around, and I was like, I don't know how I would do it. And you were like, what are you, crazy? We're going to do this together. You're going to do this at my gym. And you just had the vision, Dina, and you saw exactly because I was like, I want to make it so that kids can come on the spectrum and get a picture with Santa and not have to go through what you and I had to go through, which is you wait in line at the mall. And then by the time it's your turn to go and they shove your kid on the thing and you're not allowed to take pictures and your kid's not looking at the camera and they take the picture and your kid's screaming or looking the other way and they go, thank you. And they give you the candy cane that your child can't have because it has the wrong red dye number, whatever in it. And now you've left no picture, your kid is hysterical and it's all a bad memory. And you waited in line and had horrible things happen in line. So, I knew that we could get a better Santa and that we could get better elves to allow you to take your picture. But the part that I could never see was, how do you handle the waiting in line? And you were like, I got you on this. They're not waiting in line, they're playing in the gym. And that was how our yearly Sensitive Santa was born. And it now is what makes it feel like the holidays to my family. I just want you to know.
Oh, mine too.
Well, and so we sort of move in and take over. Last year, we did it for a total of 3 days out of the year. We take over one of your flagship gyms. We together with you. If your family doesn't come to help me decorate, it doesn't happen. So I don't want to make it sound like, it's mostly your family decorates. And then my family moves in with some elves, and we usually have some elves from that are card therapists that are there as well. And people have a scheduled time to come for an hour, play in the gym, sit on Santa's lap, get all the pictures that they want, and they get an amazing toy that toy manufacturers donate to us. But this year, we started talking about this in June because you said to me, what are we going to do? And again, you come up with the best ideas, Dina. So tell them the craziness that we are doing.
Oh my gosh. Well, my son's already looking forward to it. I want you to know, we did this for Halloween, and we're having a drive-through Santa. A drive-through Santa, you can get drive-through McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, whatever you have. We are doing drive-through Santa. And let me tell you all, okay, Shannon has been home and is protecting herself from COVID. And I had to convince her and say, I will promise you, I will put Santa behind plexiglass. But you are going to drive by, your kiddo can hop out of the car, stay 6 feet apart, and yes, there'll be plexiglass, but Santa, okay, and Mrs. Claus, or if not, okay, from the car, Mrs. Claus will be, and his elves will be there, and you can take a picture, and you get a wonderful gift. Shannon, my office right now, okay, is overflow with gifts, okay, for all of these kiddos. So we are having the event, and we're doing it drive-through style. We did this for Halloween. I want you to know, Shannon, we haven't spoken since then. It went beautifully. Parents were like,
I'm glad you got a run in.
Thank you. Yes, they were like, thank you so much. This is all that we have to look forward to. And now with the rollback here in Los Angeles, this really is going to be it for families. So I know as soon as you put that Eventbrite out, which I think we're going to do before the end of the week, it's going to be probably full within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because we're doing 10 cars every hour.
Yeah, people are going to, we're scheduled to put the Eventbrite sign up out tomorrow. We have to talk afterwards. That may be pushed back. What I will do is on the Autism-live Facebook page, I will announce with a couple of hours notice when it's going to go live. Because I do, it's a limited number of people and I feel bad about that, but we're excited about it. I can tell you what day it's happening. It's happening on December 12th. It is at Dina's flagship gym in Tarzana. And there will be signage to show you how to drive through. Can we leave letters for Santas too?
Yay,
It's what
yes.
we give them all pictures. Absolutely can leave letters for Santa. Everybody would love that.
Gabriel's written one already. Okay, for Mr. Santa Claus.
That's wonderful. And I will say that we're trying to make an opportunity for some of our families to have a Zoom in with Santa as well if you're not in the Los Angeles area. So more
That's
news
great.
about that coming
Oh,
up
I love
soon.
that.
So yeah.
You know, because we know that we're going to have so many gifts left over because we're only able to take 10 cars per hour. You know, I think that's the number that you and I came up with, to be able to not have people waiting, you know, past the next shift, is that families, so you all know out there, can call us, okay, and say, hey, can we come and drive by and get a gift? And we will absolutely run out. Again, as Shannon said to you all, we take extreme caution, not just like, okay, God forbid, you know, in the ICU areas, but we have the PPE, we've got the double masks on, we've got the face shields on, we've got the gloves. So little elf from We Rock will run out to your car, even if you can't make the event because it sells out quickly, and we will give you your present, we promise. We were able to do that last year, Shannon, because you are such a rock star on getting so many people to donate, these toy companies.
Well, it's the toy companies. We put out a toy guide every year, and we give awards to toys, and it's available right now on our website. You can go and look at the toys that we recommended this year and the amazing toy companies that we gave a shout out to and gave an award to. And then we just send out an email and say, hey, we've got this event. Would you like to donate anything? It is not contingent about getting in the toy guide. We do the toy guide and then tell them afterwards. So that's what it is. And it's amazing. I have to give a shout out to some toy companies that I want to thank Mike and Heather Achera from Lux Blocks, who always donate for us. But this year we have some new toy companies donating. There's one that's called edX Education that makes some incredible toys, blow your mind toys. I thought I had some of them up here, but I don't. Destroyer Toys makes these gnarly. I'm going to be doing more about this all this week.
Let me quick ask,
but
you guys hand me a couple of those toys over there.
Oh yeah,
I'm asking my
some
team
toys over to see.
hand me
We
a couple
always
of toys
thank
and
Endless
tell me the
Games,
company.
and this year Gridley Games and Masterpiece Puzzles.
Is it Discovery?
And somebody says they are amazing toys. Oh, what on
Look
earth?
at these Discovery.
Oh, from Discovery Toys. How much do I love Discovery Toys? Those are past winners.
And
they make amazing toys, Discovery Toys. The sticker and show books. Can I tell you, Dina, have you played with, these are from Ann Williams Group, and I have been having so much fun. Anytime I've been stressed this week, this is one of the recommendations for caregivers. It has these pages. So see, there's a picture here, and I was able to put, I have had so much fun with this. Anytime I have 10 minutes, you know what's great about it is you do the stickers and you can reposition them, and I can do a craft and put it away. Oh, look at all of these. Those are Discovery Toys as well.
I'm telling you, we've got 4 different companies, I think, that have already sent in. And I don't have a desk anymore, Shannon, so we have no room in our office. So all of the toys have been put where my desk is, hence why I'm sitting at our conference table right now talking with you this morning.
In the past, when we have done this, the toys have come to me, and my elves would wrap them, and then we would just, have 17 carloads go over to the gym. And each time I would come over with the toys, Dina would go, have you lost your mind? This year, because of COVID, we had them shipped directly to the gym. So it's your office that looks like Crazy Town.
Yes,
and
but you know what?
We want to say hi. We want to say thank you to Costco, who graciously donated some wrapping paper yesterday.
They did yesterday. It was amazing.
So
it was amazing.
truly wonderful. And if anybody has a business that wants to give more wrapping paper, because we could certainly use some more wrapping paper.
I would turn the camera, but you wouldn't believe what we're living in here in the office. And I have to do a shout out to my amazing team here. Let me tell you, We Rock. Oh, I love that, Shannon. We Rock the Spectrum is still going and still doing what we're doing because of my team in this office, who has volunteered, to be the elves, to wrap gifts. But I have an amazing COO, Gail Field, in the East Coast corporate. God bless her. I love her, couldn't do what I do without her. My CSO, Shane Stahl, ugh, I'm gonna start crying, here I go. My CBO, Henry Agassi, his wife Dana, who's our director of marketing for the nonprofit. We've got Tyler Tanner and Grace Covino, our amazing project managers. AJ Silverman, he's our community manager. And I can't do what I do. We can't do what we do for the world. And we are helping hundreds of thousands of families across the world without each and every one of them. And my sister, cannot forget my sister, Melissa Stahl. She is the director of audit and compliance. And truly, Gail, my COO, and her family, it's really not just her. It's her husband, John. It's her daughter, Janelle, running the gym. Because guess what? She's at home with her son, taking care of her son. So I can't do what I do. It's important that the world knows out there that I'm only here because of my team around me and who I have supporting me. So it's important me to tell everyone, but you should hear them. Tyler, everyone, I'll stay late. I'll wrap the gifts. I said, well, we won't wrap them this year. No. The kids have to be able to unwrap them. I mean, this is how devoted they all are to each and every one of you out there. So,
and honestly, you know, the event wouldn't be happening this year if it wasn't for you and your team, because I am, you know, at home and being very serious because of some of my pre-existing conditions. So I couldn't do all the things that you're doing, and it's just amazing. What I love about this is it is a way for us to give back to the community that's local every year. I know that some of you have sensitive Santa events in the areas where you are. You know, we are only able to, I'm only able to be a part of the one here in Los Angeles, but I know your other gyms
they are
done things. And so check locally to see what is available, and keep an eye on the Facebook, especially tomorrow. We're hoping to get the Eventbrite set up for tomorrow. I just don't know. There are some things that we have to get in order to have that, but we're hoping to be able to have you start signing up for Sensitive Santa, because it is coming up. It's happening on the 12th.
Shannon, you're making me nervous.
Well,
you're making Grace Covino,
I know, but you know, Grace and I were
us.
talking yesterday. It's like a logic puzzle, because you have to have this piece done first before you can have that, and then you have to have that piece before you can do this. So,
well, we did a soft announcement. Don't be mad at us. Those of you go on Facebook for We Rock the Spectrum official headquarters. We did do an announcement on the Kids Gym page to say, guess what? The Eventbrite's coming soon, but look what we're doing, our drive-through Santa. So
you can announce it all you want. It's just that you can't sign up for it until I get the Eventbrite. But honestly, what it is, guys, is that we had so many toy companies that wanted to participate. And one of the things that we say to them is that we'll make sure that we include your name on all publicity and stuff. So we just want to make sure that we get their logos and get them right to give thanks, because they're the ones who give the toys. And I also want to say that there will be no contact during the drive-through, that you won't actually get to sit on Santa's lap, but you'll be able to see Santa and do that. And then when you drive up, then a toy will be put in your trunk, just like when you pick up a pizza. Nobody's going to touch you. It's not going to be a handing the toy gets put in the trunk and then you go home. And I, what I like about that is that when we started this way back when, one of the things that I wanted to make sure was sometimes families just don't have money for toys. And I was that family once upon a time. Mm-hmm. And we always gave the option to parents when they would come to the gym and Santa would hand them a toy. You can open it here, you can take it home and put it underneath the tree. But it's really hard to say to a kid, you can't open it when other kids are opening it. But this way, the tree is wrapped, or the toy is wrapped in the trunk, and the parents can decide, maybe that's the toy you wait for Christmas. It's perfectly okay, because we want to make sure. Somebody says they're amazing toys, and that Mrs. Claus does a really good job at choosing a gift for the child's needs. I don't, we'll try to get it as well this year. It's going to be harder with you guys in the car because we don't get to know your kiddos, but they're really great toys. And we're so grateful to all the companies that have donated, and excited that, that we have an opportunity to do that.
Yes. And to keep it COVID, safe, we're going to be asking parents and families to pop open their trunk. So we're putting, again, for no contact, we're going to be saying, pop open your trunk, and we'll be putting the gifts in the trunk for all the families also. And Santa will be waving behind plexiglass. Hello.
So it's such a privilege to partner with you on this
Thank
every
you.
year. You know that next year we might be living someplace else because wherever Jem goes to college, we're going to live closer. So but I can envision me, sending you toys from far away.
Don't make me do the ugly cry, okay, in front of your viewers. Don't make me do the ugly cry.
Well, he might end up going to college right here. So I'm just saying all options are on the table. I kind of want to go someplace else. I'm up for an adventure. Aren't you? Don't you want to go live someplace else for 4 years?
Well, guess what? I've got almost 100 gyms around the world. I get to go and adventure and visit all of them. So I'm very lucky. But
Yeah.
I can do what I do just like you from anywhere. I'm
There
very
you go.
lucky, but I can't have this incredible support team around me. So I do need them. I do.
I love it. You always remember mine when he comes. LOL, you get a toy in his age group, then you always remember he likes the toys for the older ones, but he loves everything. Wonderful.
Let me tell you, Shannon, though, do they really know what you do? Okay, because your public needs to hear this. Literally, she has ages. And okay, Dina, these are our piles. Okay, so this is for the 2 to 4 year olds. She literally has them marked, you guys. She takes this very seriously. She does.
Yeah, but it always gets, I'm like, I try to be so organized and then something happens and by the end of it, it's a mishmash and I'm like, this is the perfect toy for you. I never, I get tired. I'm not as young as I used to be. And the elevator doesn't go to all the way to all the floors anymore. So it bypasses some, you know what I'm saying? But it's fun and it's a privilege and my family really appreciates getting to do this with your family. And by that, I mean your family and your family because you have big family.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Thank you for
yes.
letting me come on today and talk about what we can still offer, our community, the special needs community out there as a brand of We Rock the Spectrum and just to give hope, and that's what we all need right now. We need hope. We need hope. And, we're here.
Hope
we're here
and exercise.
Yes.
If we don't get it physically moving. So what a wonderful thing that you have both of those things. So definitely check out We Rock the Spectrum, check out their Facebook, and each one of the gyms in each one of the locations has their own Facebook too, so that you can subscribe, like, and make sure that you're getting all the information about things that are happening locally. But if you're here in Los Angeles, stay tuned for the Eventbrite sign up for this year's Sensitive Santa. Dina, I love you. You're amazing.
I love you more.
You're the best. And I can't wait to do this year's Sensitive Santa. So give everybody their hugs for me. I think it was just AJ's birthday. Am I wrong?
It was just AJ's birthday. Yes. I will tell
AJ happy birthday.
I will tell him happy birthday.
And have fun wrapping those toys.
Yes. And Shannon, I wanted to say, and I know that your community knows you, okay, on Autism-live, but we've all had some tragedy and death, during COVID. We just lost, my stepmom of 48 years. It was very hard losing grandma. And I know you've lost a loved one, the amazing, Joanne Lara. And it's been a difficult year, but you know what? There is 2 ways I always tell everyone, to look at life. Okay. And this is Einstein. This isn't Dina Kimmel. And that is that there are no miracles in life, or the other way, which is everything that you see around you and experience is a miracle. And I choose the latter, and I know you do too. And that's why, again, I will forever be in your life, whether you're here or somewhere else. I love you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you for having me.
Right back at you. And we love all of you. Thank you for being part of our audience today. We're back tomorrow with the latest research. We're going to be talking about bullying, research on bullying, how to prevent it, how to recognize it, how to get in there and take care of our kiddos. So you're going to want to be here with Nancy and I for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And don't, keep your eye focused on the Facebook page to hear about the Eventbrite. Don't miss it. Dina, thank you. And thank everybody. We'll be back tomorrow, you guys. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Oh.
Good morning.
We're here. We didn't have the intro.
I know, but we're here. It's good. I'm glad because we have a lot that we got to cover today. Hey, welcome to Autism Live and to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
I'm Nancy Allspot Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. And we're really excited to be here with you today. We got a big show and a guest who's already here with us. Let me just quickly say that you can interact like every other time we do this show We are live right now on Periscope, YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter. And you can respond. You can write in on any of those platforms, and it shows up right here so that Nancy and I and our guest can, get your question and either help to answer it or give it to our guest that's here. We're going to do news a little bit later on today, but we got a great guest right at the top of the show for you this morning. Nancy, we love Karen Nohelty, don't we?
Yes, we love Karen. She's always dropping by with great advice for us and information.
Yeah, Karen is part of, and I think she's the head. I will have to ask her, of the research group that is at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. They're a team of people who put together information for all of us to be able to consume. And once a month, somebody from the team comes and joins us to talk about a specific topic that we've given them a heads up that you guys are interested in. So if you want to know about research about a certain subject, then let us know and we will let them know. So Karen, is Karen here, Traven? I think she is. Yes, there she is, Karen. How are you?
I am good. How are you? Glad to be on today.
Well, and am I wrong? What is your title now for the research department?
Sure. My title is research director. So I do head up all of our research projects and the work that we do on that team.
And you help us decode and break it down, because for a lot of us moms, the stuff can get very complicated and hard to understand.
Definitely. Even for clinicians.
Okay.
Well, yes, and you break stuff down for our clinicians too. I always used to wonder, like, doctors go to school and then they graduate, and then I always thought, how are they continuing to get their information? And as I grew up, I knew about conferences and publications and things like that. But I see that sometimes when someone is working, it's hard to keep up on the research, and often they will have subscribed to a service or something to help them to keep up on the research. And at CARD, we participate in all those things, but we also have this team of people that helps us all to keep up with the times. And you had that up. So that's a really wonderful thing. Remind us what it is that you're talking with us about this morning, Karen.
Yes, I'm talking about bullying this morning. And, it's something we hope no child has to endure, but I hope by sharing some information, we can better help our kids.
So we've got new research on that. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Great.
Okay, so I'm going to mute and I'm going to drop my camera out.
Okay.
Sure. So first, I want to talk about what bullying is and isn't, because without a clear definition, we may be talking about very different things. Two people may think bullying is something different. And in the research, there are three things that we look for that make something is what we consider bullying. And the first is intentionality. The person doing the bullying has to have an intent to harm. It doesn't have to be physical harm, but there has to be that intent there to be counted as bullying. And the second thing is a pattern of repetition. And this means that, if a kid makes one mean comment to another child, that is not bullying. There has to be that repeated pattern to be considered bullying here. And lastly, there has to be some kind of power imbalance between the bully and victim. And I think, a classic example you see on TV shows and movies is a bully who's physically bigger. This could also include a bully who's older. And in the case of our kids with autism, this imbalance could be a bully who doesn't have a developmental disability and a victim who does. So those are the three things that really make something bullying. That's what we're talking about as far as all of this research that I'm sharing here today. And I want to share a bit next about how often this is occurring. And there is consensus, unfortunately, that bullying occurs more for autistic kids than for neurotypical kids. And there's a recent article by Park and colleagues just published this year that showed that 67% of kids with autism were victims of bullying. So that is 2 out of every 3 kids have experienced bullying. And, this is more in the preteen, teen years that we see this happening, but this is compared to, in the neurotypical population, we only see about 20% of kids experience bullying. So this is a big difference. And, different studies show different percentages, but in general, the risk for bullying is almost 2.5 times more for a child with autism. So there are some breakdowns of some different types of bullying, and I think it's important to understand those categories so that we know what this looks like a little bit more specifically. So that first category is physical bullying. And this is kind of what we think about. We see this a lot on TV. This is hitting, pushing, breaking someone's items. Those sorts of things fall under that category. The second category is verbal bullying. And this is, teasing, taunting, making threats. That is all under that second category. A third category here includes relational or social bullying. And this tends to be the most difficult to identify. And this looks like, excluding a kid from a group or from play, or spreading rumors. I think this is something that we typically think about girls doing more, and there is some evidence that females are engaged a little bit more in this type of bullying. And the last category is relatively new, cyberbullying. So this is, using technology with the intent of harming someone else. So some examples here are trolling, posting pictures of someone that they don't want posted, and this is especially concerning to me because a lot of children, especially autistic children, are drawn to technology, and they may often be accessing these technology elements without supervision. So especially these last three categories, the verbal, the social, the cyber, they tend to be underplayed by a lot of people because they're not as obvious as the physical bullying, but they are very, very important for us to cue into for our kids. So in terms of these four categories, verbal bullying occurs the most often. That is 58% of the autistic children experience verbal bullying. Next is the relational or social bullying. That was about a third of children. And same with physical, was a little under a third. And cyberbullying actually kind of surprised me that this was the least frequently seen at about 15%. So that's just a little bit of an understanding of what bullying looks like, what our kids are experiencing, how often they're experiencing it. There are also some patterns that are shown in the research in terms of age. So we see that verbal and the social bullying especially are seen more actually in younger children than in adolescents. So it's seen more in the group of kids between like 5 and 12 years of age. And at first that kind of surprised me when I saw that finding, but I think it makes sense. And this is also, a consistent pattern between kids with autism and the neurotypical population. So, there's some potential explanations for this. It's possible that as kids get older, they have more coping strategies. Maybe they're better at ignoring bullying. Maybe bullies, turn their sights elsewhere, So between that 5 to 12 year range is where I think most of this bullying is seen, especially that verbal and social component.
Karen, can I chime in for a second? You're blowing our minds here with a couple of different things. And Nancy, chime in if you want to too. I mean, what you just said just totally rocked me back onto my heels, because I can remember when my son was 6 and we started experiencing bullying at school for the first time. And I remember just saying to everyone, I'm just so shocked. Yeah. I thought this was going to happen when he was a teenager, but the really worst of the bullying for him happened, in those years when he was in elementary school. And you're saying that that is statistically accurate, and that blows my mind. Nancy, I'm wondering if you knew that too. And I also have to say, Janet has said that excluding kids from the group was me. I didn't realize till you said that, and I am 60 years old now. So, to hear for the first time, oh my gosh, that's a thing, and recognize at 60 plus years, they said, what a powerful power. So Nancy, anything blowing your doors off here so far?
Well, the how many kids are bullied that are on the spectrum, the sheer number, 2 out of 3 kids on the spectrum are bullied, which, that blows my mind. So I guess as parents, we need to be aware of that statistic and watch out from a very young age, as you say, Shannon. I wasn't aware of bullying for Wyatt till he was older, when there were certain kids that were so-called red flags for him. And a couple of those red flag kids did bully him. And that was in high school, like in 10th grade. So I wasn't aware of it when he was younger, but as you say, you were aware of it when Jim was how old?
6 was the first time, and it was pretty intense, and I was just shocked about it. Now, somebody else, you mentioned that cyberbullying is significantly less, but I have to wonder, there's an asterisk for me there. Is it because we aren't aware of it yet? because we don't know. And somebody wrote in and said, I have a son with autism. He plays Minecraft, has friends who also play Minecraft. And I want to encourage people. We've had Stuart Duncan on the show before. We see a lot of bullying happening on Minecraft and Roblox. And Stuart Duncan created a server for Minecraft called Autcraft, where everything is monitored, where they do not allow bullies. And if your child is the one who is doing something that's bullying, they will help them to understand why it's bullying. They don't kick him out, but they will talk to them and they'll talk to you and say, we can't have this, and they'll teach better skills. So just be careful with the Minecraft, because we see a lot of bullying with that. And somebody else who says, I started being bullied when I started 3rd grade, but I was undiagnosed with autism at the time. So I think this is a topic that's really resonating, Karen. I just wanted to chime in for a second. Nancy, do you have anything else, or are we turning it back over to her?
I think we can turn it back over to Karen.
Okay, you go right ahead, Karen.
Sure. So I think I have the same concerns and thoughts as you about cyberbullying as well. I wonder if it's happening when our parents and teachers aren't there, if that makes a difference. And next, I want to share a little bit of detail about how researchers gather information on bullying. There are 4 main ways. Number one, they can ask the individual themselves, the student, the child. Also, they sometimes ask kids to rate their peers, basically asking them to identify who in their class is a bully or a victim. Or researchers can ask parents or teachers. So it's important to get information from all of those sources. And that's where I kind of have that same asterisk with cyberbullying, because I don't think parents and teachers necessarily know everything going on in terms of technology. And that Park study I mentioned earlier, they included information from lots of different studies, with kids identifying the bullying themselves, parents and teachers identifying it. So we have a lot more confidence when we talk about studies that receive this information from lots of different places. But something that you might be thinking, and something I've definitely considered when talking about bullying with my clients is, are autistic kids accurate at identifying if bullying is occurring? Because autism involves deficits in social skills, and to recognize if bullying is occurring, you have to have an understanding of social cues and relationships, right? So there are researchers who set out to answer this very question. So these researchers in 2010, Wokel, Schultz, and Diden, examined whether autistic adolescents were able to perceive bullying accurately. So they looked at adolescents between 12 and 19 years of age who attended special schools. And I do want to point out that the students in this study had a mean IQ that was just about average. So that is definitely a certain segment of the population, and it may not apply to all kids with autism. And they also included a control of adolescents without autism for comparison. And what they did was they showed those students clips of either bullying was occurring in the clips or bullying was not occurring. And they asked them to score if it was present or not. And another piece of that study was assessing theory of mind. And that is, theory of mind is related to one of those core deficits of autism, perspective taking. And it involves the ability to understand that others have thoughts, feelings, and knowledge that's different from one's own. And one of the tests that you may or may not have heard of is the Sally Ann test. And this was one of the tests that they did here. And I'll run through it really quickly because I think it gives a good description of what theory of mind is. And for this test, for the Sally Ann test, kids are shown a series of pictures. And in the first picture, there's Sally. She takes a marble and she hides it in her basket. There's then a picture of her leaving the room, going for a walk. In the next picture, while she's away, Anne comes in, takes the marble out of Sally's basket and puts it in her own. In the final question, Sally then comes back into the room, and the child or the student is asked the question, where is Sally going to look for her marble? Because the child knows that the marble is in Anne's basket, but Sally doesn't know that because she was not in the room. So this is one of the ways that researchers and clinicians can test for that theory of mind, that perspective taking. So what the researchers found in this study was on that video scoring task, the autistic adolescents made few mistakes, not many mistakes, and their ability to perceive bullying was actually on par with the adolescents without autism. So this tells me that, our kids are able to identify whether or not they're being bullying as long as they're given a clear definition, which they were in this study. And the other thing that they found too was that the higher the adolescent rated on theory of mind on that test, the less mistakes they made. So that also is related to their ability to identify if bullying is occurring. So I think, in a nutshell, this tells us that we can trust the information that our kids are telling us as far as self-reporting bullying. One other interesting note that I want to point out with this study is that, this study was with a special school setting. And they did find, because they also asked the students to talk about if they were bullies or not, there was less victimization than in the general education setting. And this is unfortunately consistent with previous research, which really shows that kids in inclusive school settings and inclusive classroom settings experience more victimization. And this could be due to that inherent power imbalance that I talked about earlier, where in an inclusive setting, there are kids with and without disabilities. So when kids are included, they definitely need some more consideration in terms of making sure to avoid bullying. So I want to talk briefly next about just the consequences of bullying. And, I think, we may be aware of this already, but there are some pretty serious consequences that we should be aware of. And this is for, consistent patterns of bullying. We see with our kids long-term psychological problems. We can see increased anxiety, increased depression, problems in school, more externalizing behaviors like meltdowns, yelling, aggression, delinquency. And specifically, kids who experience bullying are significantly more likely to think about or attempt suicide. So this is so important for us to be aware of in our kids. And, next I want to talk about there are things that we can do. So I feel like I've been a bit of a downer thus far, but there are things that we can do to help our kids. So school is where bullying occurs, I think, most often, because this is where kids see other kids. And this is the important first step in terms of intervention and prevention. And I know a lot of our kids aren't in school right now. And we don't know if cyberbullying is occurring more since kids are experiencing a lot of remote learning. But whether it's now or when your kids return to school, you can ask the school and the staff some questions to help. And prevention, I think, is much better than intervention. So even if your child is not being bullied, given how often this occurs, it's important to follow up. So there is evidence that school-wide bullying programs are effective if they're implemented appropriately. When schools have clear policies, when they have clear consequences for bullies, we see better outcomes and decreased bullying. So I would definitely encourage any of the parents listening to find out what program is there in your school and make sure that there's clear communication between the parents and the school staff. That's something that's really been shown to help a lot. Also, one specific thing is, active supervision by adults in school, on the playground, really can prevent bullying as well. So for children who are experiencing bullying, maybe talking about getting a one-on-one for that time, getting some more adult supervision, those sorts of things can definitely help a child in the school setting. And especially, I mentioned that inclusive settings are where kids are more at risk. Making sure the school staff are aware of autism and aware of that increased risk can really help our students as well. Making sure the staff is trained and actually making sure that the peers are trained as well. Providing disability education for them can definitely help. And there is evidence that if a peer speaks out against bullying, the bullier tends to stop. So finding ways for your child to get peer support and connect them with kids who can really be protective can be really powerful for them.
I love all of that, Karen. That's all amazing. What else? I didn't mean to interrupt you. What else?
A couple more things. And I think the most important thing, and I think the thing that adults can help the most with, is really being responsive. Whether it's the school staff or whether that's, the parent, taking it seriously, being responsive helps. And adults, whether, again, school or parent, can help teach kids important skills, emotional self-regulation, coping, teaching our kids to ignore the peers, teaching them to identify those supportive peers. And I think the most important thing is teaching them to be assertive in communicating when they need help. If they talk to one adult and it doesn't work, persisting and finding in another adult. All of those things can really help our kids weather the bullying, get through it, and have it happen less to them.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Did I cut you off? Is that, can I ask questions now?
Go for it. What are your questions?
Okay. So, bunch of different things here. First one that comes to mind, this is a question that parents have been asking me a lot. And so I want you to know I'm going to be reaching out to you to ask you to come talk about bullying to our parent organization as well, because they would love this. But one of the things that parents talk about, this is all gray area, right? It's so hard to be black and white with this because every single circumstance is different, but they're trying to teach their kids about bullying. But now their kids have swung the other way, and a child walks by them and by accident knocks their papers off their desk, totally by accident. And they go, I was being bullied. And then they obsess on it saying that child bullies me and can't let it go. So do you have anything in your bag of tricks for that?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of research on video modeling in general and with bullying. And I think if we, can find clips, maybe on YouTube, I love like Disney shows because there's always conflict happening in those like Disney teen shows. Show kids the clips and talk it through like, oh, was that bullying? And I think giving examples, giving non-examples before that stressful situation that occurs for that kid can be really helpful. And I think we have to acknowledge that that situation that you described, that's stressful for that kid. It may not be bullying, but it's still stressful, and you still have to teach them the appropriate way to solve that problem. So, the first step is identifying which kind of problem is it? Is it bullying or not? And then where do we go from there?
Karen, would you suggest as parents that we talk to our kids about the types of bullying so they're aware, like go over the physical, verbal, relational, and cyberbullying so they're aware of the different types?
Yes, and give specific examples. I know we don't necessarily want to talk about this with our kids, but that's what's going to prepare them the most. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also want to acknowledge that many people wrote in while we were talking about this and were identifying the types of bullying that they had experienced. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to gloss over that. I want to say how sorry we all are that happened, and we all are working towards finding a way that we can minimize or get rid of bullying. But I don't want it to be like, oh, well, it's just normal and everybody goes through it. It shouldn't be. So we're sending a big heart to everybody who has said that they have been bullied in any way, form, or shape. It's not okay. It's not okay. When an individual has been bullied, is there anything in the research that shows how we can help them after the fact, Karen?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, that adult being responsive and dealing with it. And, if it's in school, if the school has a clear policy, having that bully be disciplined is really important. Because I think making sure that this doesn't get into an entrenched pattern is the thing that's going to help our kids the most. So stopping it as early as possible is really the most critical thing.
So Nancy, my next question is for you, because we both said that our kids have experienced bullying, and I'm wondering for you, what was it like? Like, how did Wyatt come to you and tell you that he was being bullied, or did one of the staff tell you? And then what happened as a result of it?
He alluded to the fact that certain kids were red flags, and that he tried to talk to them, and he wasn't supposed to talk to those kids. They were off limits to him, because they did engage in bullying with him. So I reiterated that he was not to interact with those kids. And I spoke to his teacher, his counselor, and she said that he did have a tendency to try to interact with them and provoke them. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he was aware to the degree he was being bullied. It kind of went over his head a bit. I did kind of discover it by him talking to me.
There you go. And we discovered that Jem was being bullied. He didn't tell us for the longest time, but and nobody else told us. But again, he was still pretty young. But I will say this, that we've had a couple of different times where when he was younger, when he experienced bullying, and that it really, our experience of it and what happened really was dictated by how the teacher reacted. Because in one instance, the teacher was like, that is not okay, rearranged her classroom, talked with her students, offered more support, kept a closer eye, intervened, stepped in several times and said, what's happening here? That's not okay. Tried to reward people for being good buddies, all of that. Later, we had a teacher who was like, I didn't see it, so it didn't happen, and would do nothing about it. And I had to go over her head, and she still was like, well, it didn't happen, because if she didn't see it, it didn't happen.
How did you find out about it, Shannon?
Because Jem told me, and then I eventually asked other students in the class and said, did you see it? And they said yes, but the teacher said, I didn't see it, so it didn't happen.
Uh-huh.
And it was a very frustrating year. Looking back on it, I wish the first time she did that, I had taken him out of her class and like put in a formal complaint. Like, it's probably one of my biggest regrets, because schools say that they have this zero tolerance policy, but a lot of times, and I've seen this with other parents, they come back and go, well, nobody saw it. Or they'll say, oh, okay, we're handling it. But because of the laws, they won't tell you if the child was reprimanded or what was happening. Sometimes they won't even tell you the name of the child, because a lot of times I'm like, let me call their mother. They don't want you to do that. They're like, let us handle it and let us not tell you what's happening, which makes me a little itchy.
And having a zero tolerance policy is very different than educating kids and making them aware of bullying. I mean, I'd be interested to know how many schools, what percentage of schools actually have an anti-bullying program that helps educate our kids. It seems like it's more incumbent upon the parents to do that.
And I think a lot of times the anti-bullying programs that I've seen that I really love are the ones that are proactive. Mm-hmm. I can't think of the name of it. We have a wonderful, we've had them on the show, organization here in Los Angeles where it's not the buddy program, it's the friendship circle. And so kids volunteer to be buddies with other kids, and they go through their school years being friends with them. They have special activities. They get to go off campus and do things together. During the summer break, they're pen pals. And those kids are reinforced heavily for being friends with other children. And I loved that. I thought that was remarkable. We've also seen over the years, Karen, that there was a study many years ago when Jem was little that came out of Santa Barbara that said a little bit what you were talking about, that the peer thing, that if your child is moving in a group of peers, they're less likely to be bullied. So they were advocating that get your child involved in a club that's part of their core interest so that they meet other kids who have that core interest, and that those kids are less likely to be bullied.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
Absolutely love that. And that one example that they gave was a kid who was really interested in graphic design. So they formed a club at his school for graphic design. He ended up being the president of it. And he had all these friends who were also into graphic design. And then everybody left him alone because he had a posse. We all need a posse.
Yes.
In life.
Yes,
right?
we do.
Karen, you talked about the consequences of bullying, which are very disturbing, actually. Anxiety, depression, and suicide.
Yes.
Do we know whether these are more prevalent with kids on the spectrum, these symptoms, than they are with neurotypical kids?
The research was a little unclear on that, but it kind of gears a little bit towards we think so.
Okay.
There are some studies on both sides there. Mm-hmm.
So that's something parents really need to be aware of if their kids are exhibiting any of those symptoms. And it might be if they are showing depression or anxiety, that they are being bullied at school. We have to get behind what's causing it.
Right. Actually, I want to clarify a little bit there. If a kid's being bullied, it's unclear whether or not there's a greater risk if they're autistic, if they're going to have suicidal thoughts. However, in general, our population of kids with autism have more suicidal thoughts and more suicidal actions. That is definitely something that's seen overall.
I think, Shannon, you and I covered that earlier, I know, in a segment.
Yeah. It's so disheartening. So disheartening. But I feel like, a lot of this piece that we're talking about hinges on an individual's ability to communicate.
Yes.
To understand what they're feeling and to communicate it. So to me, it all goes back to We want to make sure that all individuals have functional communication, that we get good ABA support that encourages communication of all kinds, whether it's, verbal, vocal, sign language on an iPad, the ability to understand what you're feeling and to convey it. Janet, who said, I'm 60 plus years old and I didn't realize what you were saying. I was excluded and I didn't realize that I was being bullied, and I'm 60 plus years old. I think, we have to work really hard to make sure that individuals on the autism spectrum first understand what they're feeling, and that we validate that whatever they're feeling, we validate, and encouraging them to communicate what they're feeling, so that because the next step is when you need help, to ask for help. And I also love, you talked about sometimes we ignore the bullies, but that is such a gray area. Like it takes such an adult mind, and for any kid, neurotypical or otherwise, to understand in this moment, this is a bully who's trying to hurt me versus this is a bully who is saying things to get attention. Tough, but we can work towards that. Question, have there been any studies on bullying while being a kid leading to PTSD and imposter syndrome as adults?
Oh, I did not see that in the studies that I looked at, but it is possible. I did not look for that specifically.
But I think the PTSD, that makes total sense. I'm not sure about imposter syndrome, but I know people who were horribly bullied as children and have PTSD as a result. So, that to me, I would love to see studies on it, but it seems like that's logical. Yes. And we want to try to head that off at the pass before that happens.
Right.
Definitely.
So, Karen, Nancy, did you have any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to let Karen go.
No, I think this covers it. Thank you, Karen, for making us aware of this. It's really, even though the numbers are disturbing, I think we have some answers as to what solutions can be with this, which is to be involved as a parent and be vigilant at an early age.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karen, for sharing all. And as I said, I'm going to be reaching out to you to see if you'll come talk to our parents about this.
Of course.
Karen knows I head up a parent group, and I press her into service whenever possible. But thank you so much. Thank everybody. If people have questions, if any of you want something covered by Karen, or a lot of times we have Leah Hirschfeld and we've had other people from your team as well, but I know Leah loves to be here with us, and we love to have her, and we love when you're here. So if you guys have questions and you're like, I want to know what the research says about this, or I've seen this particular research study and I don't understand it, can somebody break this sucker down for me and let me know what the takeaway here is? All of those things, they're happy to come and do. They're here once a month with us. So we will see them again in 2021. Can anybody believe it's already going to be 2020? Can't come fast enough.
That's true.
Who can hit the reset button faster? Right? So Karen, we just love you. And I love I was aware, and I should have said, imposter syndrome, they've given us definition, never thinking you're good enough despite your accomplishments, which I think, is that not a thing that almost everybody has a little bit of?
I would think
I've definitely experienced it.
I mean, I'm holding up my hand going, at any moment I wait for the hook to come and say, you don't have the credentials to do this. So I'm not trying to make light of it, because I think for some people it's a very, very serious thing and can be very debilitating. But I think that everybody has some element of this. I just wanted to do a check to see if I needed to go make a professional visit. If it was just me. Anyway, Karen, we love you. We love what you guys do. And please, if we don't see you, have happy holidays and happy new year. And we'll see you back in 2021.
Thank you. You all as well. Thanks.
You take care.
a lot.
Bye-bye.
And as Shannon said, if anybody has areas they want to have her break down the research on, let us know, because they will.
Right into it.
Right.
On any platform that you're on, or you can always email me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. So we wanted to morph a little into some in the news
Yes.
for you, which my computer has sort of messed up and I don't have the first story. Do you have the first story there with you,
I'm
Nancy?
going to go back to it here.
Okay.
It's a disturbing story, Shannon, from the Washington Post. And the title is a killer being tried on murder charges is blaming autism. The autism community is outraged. And this story comes out of Toronto. I don't know how many of you remember that a bunch of pedestrians were mowed over at a Toronto thoroughfare in 2018, killing 10 people. And it says the man who rammed a white rental van into unsuspecting pedestrians has pleaded guilty, but his defense is he can't be found criminally responsible on 10 counts of first-degree murder and 16 counts of attempted murder because he was diagnosed at age 5 with autism spectrum disorder. So,
yeah, and people are rightly up in arms about this. This is a very specific law in Canada that says that if you have a developmental disability and it can be proven that you did not understand what you were doing, that you can't be, you're hospitalized. It's sort of like here in the United States, if someone is deemed insane, for instance, then we put them in a mental hospital where they're in lockdown, but we don't put them in general population prison. The thing that's really, I think, very poignant and terrifying here is that on several different times when he was interviewed, he demonstrated that he did know what he was doing and why that he was doing. We've talked before on this show that there is a very terrifying group of people on the internet that prey on particularly young men on the spectrum in a certain age range and who are feeling like they are celibate because women are not interested in them. And there is this thought out there, they're called incels, and
right.
that they're telling them that it's all the women's fault, that women should be subservient to them, that women should offer their bodies to them. I mean, it's really heinous. And this young man was participating in this, and on at least one occasion had said that he, and most of his victims were women, by the way, and on one occasion said that he was doing it to as a rallying cry for incels to encourage them to harm women. So, and now that he's very, in a very tight spot where he might go to jail for the rest of his life, is saying, oopsie, it's because I had a diagnosis when I was 5. And I think there are a lot of people in the autism community who are finding this really heinous, really difficult, very stressful, because the repercussions of this, the potential repercussions of this, are very bad for the community. I don't know how you feel about it, Nancy, but I just find it so repugnant.
I do agree, Shannon. And there were a lot of experts that weighed in on this. One of Canada's most prominent forensic psychiatrists testified that he did not think, and the young man's last name is Manassian, met the not criminally responsible threshold because he was not in a state of psychosis or experiencing all-consuming hallucinations or delusions at the time of the attack, which is one of the criteria that can be used to determine whether.
Look, here's the thing. Somebody gave this person a license to drive a vehicle. And at that point, they decided that he was aware of his actions enough to do that. And when they did that, then he's responsible for everything he does behind the wheel of that car. It's a little poignant for me because we just went through a case, and we just covered a couple of weeks ago, the young man in North Carolina that the governor is going to commute part of his sentence because he was driving a car and mowed down 2 people. And then when asked afterwards, did he mean to do it, said yes. And then later it's a different argument because he answered he meant to do it, yes, because he didn't understand how to communicate what he did mean to do. To me, that's an entirely different circumstance than somebody who very deliberately, and said beforehand and has said since that he meant to drive it into a group of people and is now going, but you can't blame me for that because I have an autism spectrum diagnosis. That's just a very different thing for me.
Yeah.
So I am hopeful that the people that are involved in this case will see fit to not allow this to be an excuse for this young man and for him to be responsible for his actions.
Yeah, you can certainly understand why various autism groups are up in arms about this. And it reminds me, Shannon, of back at Sandy Hook. I don't know if you recall that situation.
Oh, yes.
Ignited a debate nationally because there were discussions about whether he was on the autism spectrum and whether that was responsible for his committing a mass murder. So once again, it's a perception issue that we certainly don't want it out there that those on the autism spectrum are more prone to this kind of violence.
Yeah. And I want to speak very clearly for myself as a woman and for Autism Live. We do not allow people who are from this subsect of, I don't even want to say humanity, this group of incels and their misogynistic rhetoric. We don't allow any of that here on Autism Live. So just putting it out there, we will shut any of that down on this website. And I want to encourage people, if you are a young man on the autism spectrum, to be very aware that these people are people who do not have your best interests at heart. And for parents who have young men on the autism spectrum, to keep your eyes open for this, because it is absolutely insidious and heinous and not good for anyone, but especially your child. Having said that, let's move on to talk about our second story.
Our second story, which is Sia's, somebody just wrote in, autistic people so much more likely to be the victim than the perpetrator. I think that's a really good point, Carly.
I do.
That to us. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And we do see that this group is preying on our young men and telling them things that then they think are true. And that's why I'm urging all of you to be very, very cautious about your young men and what they're hearing.
Okay. Moving on to the second story. This story concerned Sia, the musical star Sia, did a trailer for her, is it a video, Shannon, or a film?
She has made a film. I mean, she's made several videos,
right.
But she has made a film. And the thing about it is that this film was made many years ago. And I don't know why, it never was released.
Right.
But they now are supposedly the film is going to be released very soon, although I think that's all a little bit precarious, right, based on what happened 2 weeks ago.
And the actor in the film is portraying someone on the autism spectrum, but the actual actor was not someone on the spectrum.
Yes.
So that's where the firestorm has
well, that's where it started. Sia released, I think it was 2 weeks ago today, she released the trailer for the film and said, I'm so proud. And she has worked many times with Maddie Ziegler, the little actress. She's just amazed by her talent, and they just have this artistic relationship, and she loves to work with her. And she's a beautiful dancer, this young woman who's now 18, but was 15 when this movie was shot. And I am someone, my master's degree is in the fine arts and in the creative arts. And I believe in, artistic license, creative license, that, it takes all kinds of things. So in any case, I hear that Sia has this relationship with Maddie Ziegler and she loves to work with her. So she had written this short story, decided to take it to film. Sia has a very good friend that has a child who's on the spectrum. This was a storyline that was something that resonated with Sia. She really wanted to explore this. And in her artistic mind, 3 years ago, said, I really want to do this with Maddie Ziegler. And if you see the trailer, there's reasons why she wanted it to be Maddie Ziegler. The storyline reminds me a little bit of Poe, Nancy. Do you remember Poe? Like 4 years ago, we were covering Poe, John Asher film.
Right.
And it's a boy who's on the autism spectrum, but we get to see him when he is in his mind.
Yes.
And see what it is like in his mind. And in that case, Poe was played by an actor who was not on the autism spectrum and did a brilliant job. But times have changed.
Right. Now, because of the fact that there are so many actors and performers that are on the spectrum that are available to be cast in these roles, I think that's the biggest change that's occurred.
Yes. And, you know, I mean, I think 4 years ago, if somebody had said, you know, we're going to do a movie about an individual who's on the autism spectrum, and in some scenes they need to be, you know, on the spectrum and very impacted, and in some scenes they need to dance as if they are, you know, have nothing that's holding them back. I think a lot of people would have been like, gosh, I don't know if that's possible. You're going to have to do a big casting call. It is 4 years later, and we know that there are people who can sing that song, dance that dance, act that act, and that they're on the autism spectrum. But this movie was made 3 years ago. So she released the trailer, and rightly so, a bunch of self-advocates immediately took to Twitter and said, gosh, I really wish that you had used an actress on the spectrum. Why didn't you use an actress on the spectrum? I'd like to know why you didn't use an actress on the spectrum. Please, will you consider using actors on the spectrum in the future? And I was so proud of them for speaking up, speaking their truth, advocating for themselves, putting it out there, asking Sia questions. What I would have loved to have happened is for Sia to say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so, you know, please understand, I made this movie 3 years ago, and 3 years ago, we were in a different place. I had this relationship with Maddie Ziegler. But by the way, I did cast a bunch of people on the autism spectrum, and I cast people with other abilities too. And I didn't just cast them as people who have other abilities. I cast one as a doctor, and I'm with you in this. Just please understand that I had this creative was from 8 years ago with this actress, but in every project I do, I'm going to be with you. I'm your champion. Let's do this. Let's rock. That would have been great.
Right.
That's not what happened.
No.
that is not what happened. And I wanted to be Sia's PR person 2 weeks ago and say, Sia, let's sit down and talk about this. But she reacted defensively.
Right.
And she said things that broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I was angry. I can't imagine how people on the spectrum felt. But she reacted defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And there've been lots of people who've chimed in about it, but I think the best article was done by Forbes, and Forbes talked to 4 young actors that are on the spectrum and said, what do you want to say about this? I encourage everybody to go and read it. And I love it, not just because 3 of the actors are people that we know quite well. I think that Alex Plank, who I adore, was like, he spoke so eloquently in this article. I was so proud of him. I don't think I've ever heard Alex speak as eloquently as he does in this Forbes article. Kobe Bird, who we just think the sun rises and sets, who just is such a pure human being, says amazing things. Lillian, who's been on our show from Everything's Gonna Be Okay, said amazing things. And then there was another actress who we haven't had the benefit of having her on the show. They all said amazing things. None of them were tearing Sia down, but they were saying this really hurts us. This hurts us as a community. One of the things that Sia said that I think was particularly hurtful, I mean, there were a couple of things. One actress wrote in and said, I wish you'd considered us. And I don't, did you audition people? And she didn't for that role because she had somebody already in mind, right? She could have just said that, but instead she said, well, maybe you're a bad actor. Not okay.
Yeah.
Not okay.
Not the way to respond.
No. And the other thing that she said that I'm aware of that was, I think, the core of the problem was that she said, listen, this role, basically, I'm paraphrasing, she said this role had big requirements. And I made the decision to not have it be somebody on the spectrum because I thought it would be cruel to have someone on the spectrum play this role. And I know that she was saying that thinking that that's a thing and that was said with love. And I think instead it was just like an arrow through everybody's heart.
Right.
That giving someone a job and giving them a chance and allowing them to be challenged in a job is not cruel. And saying I'm going to exclude you from something because I don't think you can do it, and I think even to allow you to try would be cruel, is the ultimate in what I understand to be ableist. And I want to say that I am not someone who, Alex Plank tells me on a regular basis, I'll say something and he'll go, well, Shannon, that was just ableist, what you said. And then I go, really? It was? Explain to me why. And then he explains to me and I go, okay, I guess I'm going to have to work on that. I didn't see it that way. And it's hard. And I'm humbled sometimes. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm coming from a perfect place and how dare see it, but we have to move past this as a community. Now I'm talking too much, Nancy. What did you think of all this kerfuffle?
Well, I just think it showed, unfortunately, on Sia's part, it showed a real lack of awareness.
And maturity.
Yeah. And, her responses, her tweets, just put fuel to the fire. And I think it's a great discussion, though, to have, and getting it out there. The result of this, even though it was very unpleasant, was that it did have all of these people on the spectrum that are available speak out. And, there's an awareness now. And I think it won't happen again in the future, hopefully.
Yeah. And I don't know what Sia is going to do at this point. I don't know whether the film is going to be released. But I want to encourage her. I'm happy to make this platform available. I'm just going to say that I wouldn't want to be the person interviewing her, but I'm sure that we have self-advocates who would be happy to interview her on Autism Live. And I'm happy to make this platform available. If Sia would like to come on, have an opportunity to talk to these individuals face to face. I feel very strongly that, Sia, you need to apologize for what you said and do something meaningful for what you said. I hope you hear that. I hope you hear people like Alex Plank saying, we're not telling you can only ever cast an individual who's on the spectrum to play someone on the spectrum, but please at least allow them in the room and the opportunity and don't exclude them from the opportunity. That's what they're asking for. That's what they're all asking for. I'm saying hi to Diana, who says, I'm on the spectrum and own my own network. You go, girl. She says, it's been hard getting started. I've had it since September, and can we partner? I'd love that. Please reach out to me, s.penrod@autism-live.com. Let's talk about what you've got and what you need. We always want to be of support.
Yeah, let's get you on the show to talk about this. This is where
absolutely. If nothing else, we can have you on the show to promote your network. Assuming that you're not. There was one person who wanted to be on our show who was on the autism spectrum. I said yes. And then I found out that he was one of these people in this incel. And the night before the interview, he was on, talking about how he was going to be on Autism Live the next morning and how he was going to tell everybody that all the problems have happened since 1963 it wasn't even the right year, but he was saying 1963 when women got the right to vote. And after that, everything went downhill and women need to know their place and stay. And I went, what? No, sorry, you're not coming on the show. Do you know what I mean? Like, so let's definitely, I'm sure you're not doing that. So let's definitely talk and see about getting you on the show. We just are not allowing anybody to bully anybody here on the show. So we've got one more story for you, which we should have kept Karen around for, because it's the research one.
Let me pull this story up.
Zebrafish and Smurf cakes link autism gene mutation to digestive woes. Let me say the title of this article again. Zebrafish and Smurf cakes link autism gene mutation to digestive woes. And I don't even begin to understand all this, but I do understand that a lot of times when they're looking to see autism-like behavior and the effects of genes and drugs on things, there are two different animal groups that they like to use because they the way that their brains interact with autism genes apparently, I guess, is similar. So one is mice. We talk all the time about the mouse model, right? But the other is zebrafish. And we've shared this before, but before that, I didn't know. Nancy, did you know about the zebrafish
No,
thing?
I did not. I don't know how they discovered this, that zebrafish are useful as a model, but this relates to mutation in a top autism gene called SYNGAP1.
Don't you just want to crochet that onto a pillow? SYNGAP1. Just rolls tripping off.
SYNGAP1. And mutations in SYNGAP1 slow the rate at which zebrafish digest food and pass waste. And the findings may explain why some people with SYNGAP1 mutations have gastrointestinal problems.
There you go. And, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we had, well, it was a month ago, we had Leah Hirschfeld on to talk about, you know, millions of dollars were donated to look at the gastro issues with autism. And we had said, you know, where did all this money go?
Right.
What have they discovered? What's been happening? And she told us a little bit about what's happened. But I think we're starting to get to the point where they're like, okay, they're just acknowledging that, okay, we can scientifically look at and prove it's not just that it's happening. First, they acknowledged, which took forever, autism and gastrointestinal issues are more likely to be hand in hand. Oh, okay. Now, you know, like 3 years ago, everybody went, oh, all right, that's a thing, which that was a big leap. But now they're saying, and we can scientifically point to it and say it's attached, you know, at least in part to this one particular metabolic dysfunction and what happens with the synapse, and what the fact that when your intestines aren't working properly, if you are having too much diarrhea or you're having too much constipation, that it's going to affect your behavior and how you think and how you develop. So we can all say, woohoo, we're not there yet. Right. But they're seeing it in the zebrafish, which means that, you know, hopefully we'll be able, they're also seeing, we've been hearing about Shank 3. There's another one to crochet onto it.
Right.
That this plays a role in it too. So there you go. SYNGAP1 and Shank 3. That someday, you laugh now, but someday we're going to come back to that and know that, you know, all of the big things that have happened that are helping with gastrointestinal issues are all going to come back to those two things, and you're going to wish you had it on a pillow. Okay, we're almost out of time here, but somebody wrote in, we had our triannual meeting and my son is now under OHI. Is that a part of 504 plan? They recommend specialized academic instruction for him, and it's SAI. What in the hey nani nani? I love that how you spelled that. What in the hey nani nani is that, and what will it look like for him? Also, can you talk a bit about what are autistic-like behaviors? Because is it another category that he may fall under? So I want to say we're not going to have time to go through all of this. But my question for you is: are you in the state of Ohio? Or are you in the state of Virginia? Because different people have different abbreviations for different things. And what I want to do is know that so that we can ask Bonnie Yates this question, since it has to do with school.
I was going to say, when is Bonnie next on the show?
Bonnie is on Monday. And so she can look at some of this. The reason why I'm asking,
Bonnie she's in California in Placer County, but she should tune in on Monday.
Okay, well then Bonnie will definitely know the answer to this, and I will make sure that she has this question. Traven, I don't have the chat app up, so can you grab that question for me so that I can make sure that Bonnie has that? And Diana's working on a documentary, so I can't wait to hear more about that. Okay, fabulous. So we will get back to you about the OHI and what that has to do with what in the hey nani nani. I say that all the time, so I love that you said that. And we will figure that out on Monday. And if you're worried because you can't wait until Monday, make sure you email me, s.penrod@autism-live.com. Or if there's more information you want Bonnie to know, you can send that to me, s.penrod@autism-live.com. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something that I haven't even told Nancy yet. So next week, we are not going to be here for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, be ready for our Sensitive Santa drive-through on Friday. But we will be back here for our very last show of the year the week after, 2 weeks from now. And on that show, we have Vince Redmond with us. So we will be back, but then that will be the last show of 2020. And then we'll be back in the new year. We're not coming back on the air until I think it's the third week in January.
Okay.
So we're taking a little break, regrouping, because we want to up our game a little bit, and it's very hard to do shows and do that at the same time. Plus, everybody needs a little bit of a rest. We will be playing oldies but goodies, so you won't be without Autism Live. It's sort of, like anything else on TV that we'll play reruns. We're not abandoning you, and we'll still be available to answer questions online, but we won't be spitting out some new shows for a couple of weeks. But Nancy, thank you so much for being with us here today.
I enjoyed the discussion today. It was really interesting.
Heated.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of heated topics. But anyway, we'll be back with Autism Live on Monday with Bonnie Yates. And then we will be back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I believe is that the 16th? It's 2 weeks from today. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And hug yourselves for me.
Bye-bye, you guys. Bye-bye for now.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.